Look at the way we moving, saying she with it.
And we are live. That was 30 seconds. That wasn't bad. That was quick. Okay, we are live, guys. Welcome back to the Elsewhere podcast. Where else would you be? You know, have to throw that in there. I really appreciate you being here with me because everybody knows that my pet guests, the ones that are just like my favorites. No offense to anybody else. Don't get mad. Are my author friends. Like, I'm obsessed, and everybody knows that it's kind of a running joke about me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm stoked to have you here, everybody. I see people coming in. I know that the notification hasn't gone out yet, so we're just kind of biding our time and, you know, stalling until people get in. That's how I roll.
Yeah, I assume you have some sort of weird delay, too. Is there a delay?
Yeah, there's a delay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There's probably like, it just depends on, I don't want to say the mood, but it depends on YouTube's mood. Sometimes it's like a 10-second delay, and sometimes it feels like 20. But when the only time it really feels like a long delay is when I'm talking by myself, and then I'm like, so, I mean, what do you guys think? Do you think? And I'm like,
the crickets. That's how I feel when on the rare occasion I do Facebook Lives, which I have to like lose a bet with my readers to get on Facebook Live normally, which is why doing this right now is like, it's a big deal.
Oh, I'm thrilled, and I appreciate you agreeing to come on with me. And just a quick shout out, I see Jess, my mod, she's in the chat. She's posting your Instagram. You guys check her out. By the way, here's the disclaimer, y'all. This is an NSFW AF stream. So that scares you. Bye. Like,
yeah, bye.
I'm pretty sure that everybody's pretty much, you know, got balls of steel around here. So we're pretty good, but I mean, shout out to Sherry. I see you there. Kat. Champagne Rain. Jared. Oh, I clicked the wrong button. I about deleted my chat. That would have been good. But yeah, this is definitely not going to be a safe for work, child-friendly conversation, and I'm so here for that.
Yep.
They're starting
It rarely is with me.
Yeah. Well, me either. Well, I've learned to tone it down. Like, apparently I can tone it down. Who knew?
Well, yeah.
Because, you know, I'm trying to appease the YouTube gods and all that stuff. So.
Right.
And also because, you know, when my mom's in the chat.
Is mom in the chat?
She's not. She's on the phone with somebody. Rude. So I'm like, yes, let's get into this.
Okay.
I told her last night, I was like, yeah, you might not want to be on tomorrow.
It's like my mom, like, not like wanting to read my stuff, but I think more because she's nosy. And I'm like, please don't ever. Like, and I know she wants to like kind of support, but it's more that she's nosy. And I'm like, no, I could live my life without you reading my books.
Oh my God. That's so funny. I mean, sincerely, that's hilarious because I know that
some people are fine. I mean, some authors are fine with it, or they're like have a different kind of relation. I'm just like, I do not want to look my mother in the eye after she reads something that I've written. Like that's just someplace I don't ever want to go.
Well, I'm at the point where it's like I feel that way about some of the podcasts that I do and what I say.
Yeah.
You know, like when I get real into like my own personal story or my commentary or talking crap or, you know, saying dirty things, you know, in general, I don't want her to be there because I'm like, you know.
Right.
It's my mom. But, you know, now she always knows when I'm live, right? Because not only should she subscribe to me, but she's in the other room. Because I went around and I moved in with her, you know, because I got kids and I was like, I need to like not have the two different households and stuff. What's up, Aggie? Appreciate you being here, ma'am. I just, because then I feel like I can't just say what I want to say. I feel like I'm kind of being hesitant and I don't like to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, I have a whole display of books over there that it's, Truth was here. What is it? Beginning of December, he came by. He set up my stuff for me. He brought it, actually. He brought it on the plane, and he set it up for me. And he goes and he picks up a book, and he starts thumbing through it, and he's like,
oh.
He's like, okay. They did what to who, what now? Like with, oh, okay. Well,
especially if it's a cover that doesn't give it away, you know?
Yeah. Well, yeah. So I have my ode to, the books that I love. I'm still building my collection because apparently I'm not made of money. So I have to actually buy
Yeah.
them a couple at a time. And then I spend all my money on
Right.
Kindle. And then I'm mad because I don't have the paperbacks. I'm like, dang it.
Yeah. I know I've started, I don't actually, mine, it's more of a space issue, which is, and I do prefer to read on my Kindle, but it's a space issue with the paperbacks. But I've started just like buying like my friends' signed books, especially if they do like special edition covers. I'm like, I have to have it. I'm not going to read them. I'm not even going to crack the spine. I just want to look at them and like occasionally pet them because like they're so pretty. And I'm just such a cover hoe because I design my own covers. I'm a graphic designer. So if something's a good cover, it's like I have to have it.
No, that's awesome. Oh, by the way,
Yeah.
welcome in Katie Hurd. I know that you're new to this podcast. I am guaranteeing that is one of your readers.
Mhm.
Guaranteed.
Sure, it sure is.
And Lady Kenzie, nice to see you. Here's a fun fact. See, I've got all these autographed albums, right? Most of them are independent artists, and most of them I know personally. And all but one have been on the podcast. All but one, which is the one that has the most albums up there. But
Yeah.
everybody else has. No, I lied. 2. Knox hasn't been on yet, but still, I don't have any signed books, which I think it's bullshit. Like I really should have signed books.
Yeah.
But then
It's fun.
I mean, I want to, but I've been buying I bought my absolute favorite series in the whole wide world. I bought it in full. And then, I just started getting like the second favorite series in the whole world it's been my favorite for years. And then, I was getting onesie twosie and stuff like that. And
well, a lot of us do book plates, which is just a fancy way. They're just like these fancy stickers we do, like, and that like it's just a little designed sticker that we can then sign the sticker and we mail it to you.
oh wow.
Mine are fairly small. They're like this. Some people do like larger ones. I do them also for international readers because shipping can be ridiculous. Can I drop F-bombs or am I going to get YouTube mad at you?
I don't fucking care.
Okay, I just want to make sure because I swear like a sailor, but I don't want.
No, that's fine. It's fine because YouTube will clap people if they're like cursing in the first like 2 minutes.
Oh, okay.
However, I'm not monetized, so I don't care. Like, what are they going to do? Withhold the income? Oh wait, I don't make a dime. I don't make a penny.
Right.
So
okay, I just didn't want to get you spanked in a not fun way. So,
don't threaten me with a good time. Like,
but yeah. So anyway, so the books that you already have that you love and you already bought, like, see if those authors do book plates because most of us do, and that way you can still get a little scribble and a little note sometimes, and you can just stick it right in your book.
No, that would be great. I didn't know about that, to be honest. I see like the bundles and stuff, and then people are like, "Oh, it's like $89." I'm like,
I know it's a lot. Every time I offer something new, I'm almost like, sorry, but people love it. But
it's more the fact that like I go through books so fast. I can read like 3-4 a day if I'm really trying. Easy, like that's easy for me. And I also get audiobooks, so when I'm working, I can put my earbuds in. And so then that's expensive, even though it's half price if you have Kindle Unlimited.
Yeah,
it's only like $7, but that's $7. But I get, if I'm not listening to it and I go on a break, I'm reading it, so I'm getting through the book in a day anyway.
Yeah,
so it's like $7 a day at least.
Yeah,
and that's not cheap, and that's like where all that money that I could put into something like that goes.
Yeah, and that's why I just love being on Kindle Unlimited, which I know it's tricky because some countries actually don't offer it. I don't know how the breakdown goes, but some countries actually don't offer it. And for some people it is an extra expense, but if you can afford the $10 a month, like I subscribe to Kindle Unlimited and like I just like plow through books and I make sure that like all my books are on there as because it adds up. It's a lot if you just keep buying ebooks from people or paperbacks or whatever. Like,
no, absolutely. Because if it wasn't for Kindle Unlimited, I probably would have kind of fallen off the book wagon again.
Yeah,
just totally. Because the ease of being able to find them. And if I have to, okay, so some books I'll pre-order or pay for. Like, I don't have a problem with that. But I will actually prefer the ones that are on Kindle Unlimited because I know I'm going to go through. Like, I'm not going to pay $14 for a book that I'm going to read in less than a day.
Right. I know. It's tough. I know it's just such a, like, I have no problem with people reading me on Kindle Unlimited. It's actually where I make the majority of my income, like overall.
No, I
And
believe
it's
that. I know a lot of
it's
people
like
that
a
say
good,
that,
yeah.
and they say
Yeah,
it.
it's, yep.
But now you've got Amazon doing some, shenanigans and
Amazon
fuckery.
Amazon is fucking drunk, I swear. Like they hate us. Like which is like us meaning like indie authors, and it's so ridiculous because we make them so much money.
Well, you'd think
But
it's
like
the
they,
same with YouTube. It's the same. So I get
yeah,
that. Yeah.
yeah, and it's just the issue is that there's so much that's automated behind the scenes with Amazon with actual bots just doing random sweeps, and they catch something they think is weird. Like I actually got like right before this latest fiasco where a bunch of authors' books got pulled for various reasons. Um, and we were all signing a petition, which is a petition that's still up to like have Amazon stop fucking with us.
By the way, that
Essentially,
petition is in my Discord under announcements. If anybody hasn't seen it yet, the
yeah,
petition is listed in there, and you can go click on it and sign it to get
it's a,
Amazon to stop fucking with people.
yeah, it's essentially, long story short, it's essentially that when we as authors are with Kindle Unlimited, it's like an exclusive agreement. And so when someone pirates our books and puts it up somewhere else, the bots do this sweep. It's not even a human. And if they see our book somewhere else, never mind who put it there, who stole our book and put it up, we're the ones who then get our account. Like the book gets ripped down from Amazon, meaning we don't make any money on it. The entire account can get threatened or taken down because in their minds, the bots' minds, we are breaking the contract with Kindle Unlimited.
Even though you're not even doing it.
Even though we're not even involved, we're not making money. Our work has literally been stolen and like shoved up somewhere for people to just not have to pay us. And so that's what the latest, like a bunch of authors, they must have had a bot sweep that just like swept through, and a bunch of authors got their work taken down for that reason. There was a couple others that were dealing with their book got taken down because of supposed copyright issues with their covers, which again was bullshit. Because then they just had to like dig up the like proof from the designer and the stock photography, whoever, a photographer. I recently got a vaguely threatening email like right before all this happened, where like they had a problem with like two categories that like my witchy series, my Rise of the Witch Yaga's Rider series, which is like 3 series ago.
Right.
They didn't like some of the categories it was in, including mythology, it blew my mind because it's actually based on Slavic mythology. So I had to like go back and forth. I had to like reply to this bot, which then got me to a human to then explain, okay, this is actually what my book's about. But like the initial email was very much like, you need to correct this problem on this book and your entire catalog or else type of thing. And I'm like, or else like, I'm supposed to guess what you'll have a problem with. And so this is the reality of like what authors have to deal with in terms of like Amazon just, deciding to like have a problem with something that may not even be our fault or accurate.
Thank you, Jess. She just posted the link to the petition in the chat right there. So I appreciate that. Darnell, in answer to your question, actually, I'm just gonna repeat your question. Is there a validation process when you upload as an author that you are who you say you are?
You know what? I feel like it's funny because it's been a couple of years now since I originally created my account, and I want to say no, because this has also happened even with author friends of mine where, like, let's say they delist a book, like maybe they want to like re-edit it or republish or not have it be in Kindle Unlimited or whatever.
Right.
And someone else will literally upload that book, like they've pirated it, they upload it like somehow under that author's name, but the royalties go to them. I mean, there's just like crazy shit that like people can do where your book is suddenly up on Amazon, but it's not like connected to your account. And the funny thing about that is not funny in a good way, right, is that this is why supposedly this is Amazon's claim as to why we actually don't get paid. We get paid 2 months after each cycle.
Okay.
Like I won't get February royalties, etc., until March, April, end of April. And the reason, so, we're constantly on this delay of like getting paid anyway. And supposedly, from what I've heard from Amazon side, supposedly that is because of, potential, fake accounts or pirates putting up books. They don't want to like give money, to someone who's not really you. But like at the same time, they like shut down actual authors' accounts with little to no warning for whatever reason they decide. And if they do that, your royalties are just gone from whatever last time you were paid. So you could have just had like the best month of your life, and something sets off a bot. It's like poof, it's just gone. So it's nuts how like we are so enslaved to it. And it's hard because I know with this latest this latest petition and everything, a lot of readers, and I think their hearts are in the good place, were like, well, I'm not going to do Kindle Unlimited anymore, and I'm going to boycott. And I'm like, because it is like where we make a lot of our income. And like it's hard because, yeah, I would love it if I was able to just be like, fuck you, Amazon, and like not publish there or not do Kindle Unlimited. But like, I literally have to like,
I mean, it makes sense.
Like,
I mean,
yeah, like I have to. And so it sucks to be a slave to this, like this wheel,
No, I mean, honestly, I'm friends with Ivy Asher, and I've talked to her about this. She said she pays people a lot of money to go find these pirated links and get them taken down.
Yeah.
And then people still get nailed for this stuff. And yet they pay people a lot of money to go search up all these pirated links.
Yeah, I have a service that I pay too. And they do keep up on a lot of stuff. But yeah, I knock on wood a million friggin' times. I have not had to put them into work for me in the sense of like Amazon coming for me and like the way it did for certain authors recently. I'm not sure how useful those types of services are in that sort of situation. They're good for like an ongoing maintenance type of thing.
Right.
But
still, I mean, if you're paying I'm not blaming the company. Don't get me wrong.
Oh no, I agree with you. I think I'm curious as to what they do in the case of that situation where a book gets ripped down.
I'd want it in my contract, but if I'm going to pay for it monthly and then I get pulled off of Amazon, then you can bet that you're going to be compensating me for at least 2 months of income because you obviously didn't catch them all, did you?
Right, because that's a thing. To me, it's like it's hard to shell out this much money to someone to do something like this. But to me, I'm like, well, thinking of it like the same way you have health insurance or renter's insurance or car insurance. It's like a just in case.
And it's sad because it's theft.
Yeah.
It's shady, bad actors that are ripping off other people's work, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm not a fan of that. I just think that people just need to stop being shitty people.
Stop being a trash person. Thanks. Yeah. No, totally. I know. It makes me really, it really gets me going because it's just, I mean, so many of us, I mean, not all of us, like I'm fortunate enough to be doing this as my full-time job. But regardless, I mean, it's still like a chunk of income for whoever, whether or not it's like how they're fully supporting their family or what, but it's just like, I literally don't want to hear anyone's argument as to why they pirate books. Like I am so not fucking interested. I'm not interested at all. And I know that some people they get mad about that. And I'm so entitled as an author. It's like, yeah, I'm fucking entitled to get paid for my work. Like, I don't know what else to say to you. Like everyone's entitled to get paid for their work. Like literally.
Well,
I have nothing else to say.
This could tie into one of my conversations I had last week when I went at AI.
Because,
I mean, and I was talking about it and I was saying, how you go and you talk to a chat person, but it's not really because they just triggers certain words and you say something and it's like, and it keeps repeating and you're like, that's not what I said. Did you read the whole sentence? No, it's a bot. Yeah. Of course it didn't.
Right.
But using these bots, I understand that they're catching stuff, they're saving money or whatever. Okay, I get that. Like they can't afford it. Give me a break. But to automate things like this, and YouTube does the same. YouTube does the same thing. They automate certain things where, like, for example, it's pretty easy to say, okay, you're the author, this is your work. And then, get free books because I ripped them off.com has a copy. That's not you. And anybody with half a brain cell would be able to make the differentiation, but a bot just it.
Right.
They've not fine-tuned the algorithm down
No.
to. Yes, I was just
No.
doing this on camera. That's right. They haven't fine-tuned the algorithm for their
Right.
bot enough to differentiate that the one you are in the right and then all these other sites are in the wrong.
Right. No,
Or
all they
anything.
see, all they know is that this particular book by this author, this title, is in a contract with us being Amazon, to be exclusive because it's Kindle Unlimited. And so therefore, if they find it anywhere else, someone is breaking the contract, and in their mind, it's the author.
Well,
Like, that's
and they're
literally
figuring that
it.
it's your problem
Yeah,
because
they
you
make it
don't.
up.
You
They
want to
make
get
it up
your
all.
income. You want to get
Right.
your paid for your work, so you're going to
Right.
do something about it. They don't have to do anything. Why would they?
No, they really don't. I mean, this petition that is in your chat and on your Discord. It's amazing. Last I looked, it was like 30,000 signatures. I have no idea what it's up to now. I haven't looked. But I'm really, I mean, it's, I hope that, with enough people being loud, that change is made. I mean, last year we dealt with, the Authors Guild actually stepped in because we were all dealing with, just indie authors in general, we're dealing with like ridiculous amounts of returns, like people treating Amazon like it's a library.
Yep.
When like in reality, like you could actually find a lot of our books in like library apps and do it that way, and that's fine, and the author still gets paid. Or use Kindle Unlimited where you could read it and then return it, the author still gets paid. But what people were doing were treating like book buys, like buying an ebook. They would literally read the entire thing, return it, literally go through entire series doing that. And I
didn't
know
you
that
could
some,
return an ebook.
well, yeah, you could. They've changed some things now because of
I
this.
just didn't know you could. Like,
I know, like who would do that? I feel like
Right.
I've maybe once like fat finger bought a book by mistake and then immediately returned it. But like that's only because I really didn't want it.
right.
But now that I'm an author, I might not even do that, depending who the author is, because honestly, like we actually
Thank you,
get
Jess.
dinged. Like we get dinged.
30,578 signatures.
That's amazing. That we actually are the ones who, people do it like, I've heard the argument, oh, I return the books, it's just sticking it to Amazon. Like, no, actually it's not. Amazon's not going to take the loss on that. The loss goes to the author. Like author friends are like in the negative some days because of people reading and returning their books, which I'm just like, why would you do that? So it was a big deal it was like becoming rampant last year because people were talking about how you could do it, and literally on TikTok, like showing people how to do it, which is just such trash behavior. So it became really rampant last year. And so the Authors Guild, I believe, stepped in and actually met with Amazon and got Amazon to agree to some terms that they have now been playing a little funny with. They were supposed to, first of all, they were supposed to implement it by the end of last calendar year, which they have not done. And it's supposed to be that if someone has read more than 10% of a book, they can't return it. Because like, obviously if you read something and you absolutely hate it, a few pages in, like you're going to know. But if you just keep reading it, you can't, like, you don't like eat a fucking sandwich and then be like, well, like, I didn't like it. And like you hand someone like the crust, like,
Can I speak to a manager? I want my meal comped because it was trash and then it's
I
gone.
know, but you ate the whole thing. Like that's
Well.
literally the same behavior. So we're still waiting on it to really go through. It's in progress, supposedly, but Amazon's being a little tricky and vague
No.
with the wording, of course. I guess you could say it's slightly encouraging that they agreed to do anything at all.
Right.
Like you have the ability to like not have people be able to return books after 10%, like you should make it so people can't pirate books from your site, or you should make the Kindle Unlimited terms of service not be exclusive. Like that would literally be the easiest solution. Like just don't make it exclusive. I would 1,000% still have my books in Kindle Unlimited. The
and I would 1,000% still pay for Kindle Unlimited and use
That's
it.
what I mean. Right. It has nothing to do with exclusivity. Like literally has nothing to do with it from a reader or author.
It's convenient as hell. And that's the bottom line. And I pay for convenience. Like I pay for somebody to work on my car because I don't want to learn how to do it myself. I pay for the convenience of it. Like I could clean out my car. Why? If I can pay someone, if I
Right.
can afford to, you
Right.
know, and if I have to save so I can afford for someone to detail my car, cool. Because I
Yeah.
don't want to do it. Like, you know, so
Right.
convenience is a lot of it. My biggest thing, okay, so you want to hear something funny?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm getting better, right? Because I have a niche of type books that I'm really really into, like my go to, and I realized that I'm like scared that the powers that be are going to like flag me as a crazy person for the
Like
stuff that I
the
try to look
FBI.
up. Yeah, like they're going to flag me as like a deviant, which I mean I kind of am, but that's not what I'm saying. So like I always put like dark, right? I want dark. I want
Mhm. Yeah.
as close, not always taboo, but close to, like
Yep.
adjacent. Like, I mean, even dip your toe, but not literally, but still.
Dip your toe taboo.
No, and I'm like,
Yeah.
especially when it comes to like dubcon and non-con, that kind of
Yep.
stuff. And I'm like, before you know what the terms are, sometimes you're like, well, I'm not putting that word in.
They're gonna
You know,
come for me.
I'm just waiting to be flagged, you know, and have somebody come knocking at my door and like take my
Yeah.
computer or something or take my phone. But no, I mean, I just want to know, okay, and I know you have the answer to this. That's why I'm going to ask you this.
God, do I?
If you were to summarize your books in a couple of hashtags, what would they be?
Well, I'd probably say filthy. I think filthy is a good, I mean, they're definitely smutty, but I feel like my flavor of smut is filthy smut. Like it's just,
I agree.
yeah, it's like very borderline gross sometimes, but gross in a really good way.
Right. No, seriously,
Like we're
you're
having some
correct.
fun.
Like there's a difference
Um,
between like 50 Shades Dirty, like, oh, you know, you get that it's going to be
yeah,
dirty, and like maybe
it's not
there's a
just
couple
steamy.
descriptions, but then the level of detail and the what's the word? The variety of activities and places things go and where people are like that makes it like dirty versus
Yeah.
like filthy. It
Yeah,
does.
like when people tell me that I was their gateway to whatever genre, whether it's Why Choose or monster romance, like, "You're the first monster romance I read." I was like, "Oh, child." Like, well, I mean, you survived,
Like if they
you know?
survive yours, then they're good. Like with
Yeah,
pretty much
like, I
all the other
mean,
stuff. Yeah.
like, it's not beginner. It's definitely not it's not, like, super expert. I mean, I'm definitely not at the, like, farthest end
Hmm.
of, whatever the spectrum
By the way, if
is.
y'all haven't figured this out, this is where we go NSFW.
Yeah,
AF.
I was gonna say we're gonna
We're
be
about
a
to get
we're
into
gonna be a
all that.
wash we're gonna be a wash influence. I mean, I'm just putting that out there and everybody can just deal with
I mean,
that.
if people didn't figure out by the thumbnail, I don't know what to tell them.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about tentacles and tentapene, which are 2 different things.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, so it's funny to me when people say, excuse me, that you were the gateway or my intro to I'm like, "Okay."
Well, do you
But if
say
they
I'm
liked it,
sorry or you're welcome? Like
no,
legit.
I'm like, "Good for you." Like, give them some praise, you know? Um, but yeah, and other hashtags, I mean, I definitely think there's like dark humor. I mean, I think the humor in my books surprises people. I mean, it shouldn't surprise you. If I always tell people the correct reading order for me is to first experience me on social media. Like, I really think that you'll just know what you're getting into because I think when I see a review, someone or like, someone that just was like, "Oh," like surprised by the humor, not necessarily in a bad way, sometimes in a bad way. Um, I feel like it's people who, like, just found me on Amazon or, like, went in blind or, like, whatever, what have you, did not come to me by way of one of my social media accounts. Um, so that would be my first bit of advice to people is to, like, go to my Instagram or join my Facebook group, or TikTok is probably where you'll get the most feel for my humor. It's just, like, it's a certain brand of humor. It's
Right.
definitely an acquired taste, but people who get it fucking love it, and they're just like my people. So, and the fact that I do this like filthy, dirty sex with humor and like somehow make it work so it's not, I mean, it is ridiculous, but in a good way, I think. Um, but yeah, I like that balance. I like the kind of, you know.
So I don't really have to. I don't really have to ask you if, because this is I'm sure the questions that people get a lot, authors get a lot. Are you pulling your content from personal experience?
Oh my God. Well, I mean, my husband does not have a tentapene, unfortunately, or tentacles. Rude.
Right? Like,
Yeah,
how dare you?
yeah, like he knows he knows that there's no competition there. I mean, yes and no. I mean, I definitely pull things from personal experience, just especially if it's just something kind of out there. I mean, like there's gonna be so much TMI, but I've talked about this openly, so it's not like super confession. But like in my Yaga's Rider series, it's witchy. It's based on legends of Baba Yaga. Three men lost in the woods. They find this like 400-year-old hot bod witch, whatever. One of the men really we end up calling it the Vajuju Voodoo.
Mm.
He just likes he just loves like day old pussy. Like
I knew
he's
that's where you're going with this.
unapologetically into it. The smell of it, the taste of it. This is also like 400-year-old forest witch. She doesn't shave anything. These men go absolutely fucking feral for it. Except, I mean, like, what's she going to be waxing in the woods? I mean, no. But this one character, Tanir, like, that's just his jam. And he's just like, bring it. You know what I mean? Like, just bring it. And that was actually based on an ex-boyfriend who was like into that. Literally the only good thing about that ex. Like, I don't really remember too much else about him that I liked, but like just like little things like that. Like, I'm just like, that is just like such an interesting, I guess you could say,
It's just
kink.
it's how
hard
people
to,
are,
yeah,
though. Like, there's the people who
exactly.
don't mind,
Right,
right?
right,
It doesn't
right,
matter to them. And
right.
then there's the people who purposefully want you to go out of your way to ferment as much as you can.
Right. And like, God bless him, right? I mean, like, I'm like I'm not a kink shamer at all. And I'm probably not, for my husband's sake, I'm probably not gonna go into what he personally likes just to give him like some respect, you know. But like, it's like literally people can come to me and just be like, and readers do. Readers love to go into my DMs, which I love because I'm kind of a voyeur and like a super fucking creep. So, like, if they want to pop into my DMs and be like, "Oh my god, I have this story to tell you," or like, "Will you write X?" Um, which I do take requests. I actually do take requests, like with my gay superheroes and villains series, Villainous Things, the first book that came out, Not All Himbos Wear Capes. I actually had a special request from a dear reader who wanted me to write a docking scene. She
Gotcha.
had read, yeah, she had read docking scenes before, but they just didn't do it for her, like, they were too short or just, like, not the main event. She's like, "I want it to be the main event of that scene." And, like, I'm gonna explain it for people who don't know what docking is. I'm gonna sit
Yes, I
y'all
was going
down
to
the
ask you
rabbit.
if you would mind doing it, because if you didn't, I was
Yeah.
going to.
I mean, like, I feel like, how are people seeing this? Like, can we, like, meet, like, halfway? Like, because what it is, it's literally, so it's dudes. One or both have to be uncut, uncircumcised, because essentially what it is they go tip to tip, and the foreskin of one is pulled over the head of the other, like docking, like two ships. Like, think of like in space, so like meh, like docking. I guess that's where the name came from. And then it's kind of like rubbed around, and I mean, obviously, I have no idea personally how that feels, but like I did my research. It was rough to have to do that kind of research, um, but yeah, so that reader came to me, was just like, I want a docking scene that's just ridiculous and how only you can do it and filthy as fuck in the main event. And I was like, challenge accepted. So I just like
Yeah, you
did that.
nailed
And
it.
apparently, yeah. So, and I even have a print of it. My lovely illustrator, Biggs Boy on Instagram, did an amazing, not safe for work art print of the docking scene.
By the way, you guys, she has NSFW art for her books. Okay?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I know a lot of people here, they know about like the books and they know about the type of genre. They understand the concept, but I think that people don't understand. Some of them might not understand. you've got your book covers that are like, your artwork and stuff that go out into the main public, right? And then you have the ones that people can get, right? Because you have, not only do you get art done for it, but I'm sure that you have tons of fan art and stuff like that. And these books they're not like elementary books, right? They're not like they're
not Fade to Black.
NSFW like 50 Shades has nothing on this.
Yeah.
Right.
Nothing.
And so you would assume, and I mean, there are prints out there that are just visual representations of some of these scenes, and they get dirty as hell. Oh my God. Right. So if you like stuff, like some people really like erotic art, filthy art, whatever, do what you want to do. You can get those. And a lot of authors in this type of a genre have access to that. You can get prints of their NSFW artwork. You're just not going to see it right away because you have to go looking for it.
Yeah, and sometimes, I mean, we have to be careful. I mean, if you go to my Instagram, you'll see some like very strategically. I actually just did an artist appreciation post for Big's Boy, who does my my Villainous Things superhero villain art, and then for Monrays, who does my Herculea art. I did some posts for them recently where I made sure the first photo was nice and safe for Instagram, but you could keep flipping, but you still have to make sure that certain things are censored, even though it is art, but like,
right.
I literally, like, I have one of my 12 Hunks of Herculea. This is my Monster Why Choose romance series. I have one of the art prints. It's the one of the couples within the Why Choose, because my Why Choose are very polyamorous. It's like everybody's fucking everybody for the most part. Not everyone. Sometimes there's an occasional straight person who's just with the main character, but it's rare. Just depends what they like. But one of the couples is our Hydra, our leg snake, and our Kraken. And so this is them in their mostly human forms, but even in their human forms, their dicks are fancy. Their dicks are still fancy.
They're bedazzled a little.
They're still bedazzled. They still got little features on them. I mean, think about like, the like amazing like sex toy companies that you can find like on Etsy or on Instagram or whatever that like make these like really wild things. Like that's like endless inspiration for us as like monster romance authors, like different ridges, just like different features. But yeah, so that particular scene, they're like our two water babies floating around in the water, having some fun. But yeah, the Tentapene has a mind of its own. It's kind of giving the other peen a little kiss. And I literally could not, Vistaprint would not, it's actually what made me have to start printing my own prints, because Vistaprint refused to print it. Even though they printed another, not safe for work, the other Herculea print where we have like a kind of nice sandwich going on with our girl and a couple of the guys.
Right.
But I think it's because the peens were touching. That's my guess, but they wouldn't print it. So I just started printing my own prints. But yeah, I mean, that's the thing, is that we have these great scenes. We have to pick, sometimes we ask our readers, like, what do you want to see? I mean, with Himbos, it was obvious that the docking scene had to be a print.
Right.
Like people like lost their fucking minds over it. And I'm like, okay, well, that's obviously a print. But right now I'm in the process of preemptively, I'm trying to get ahead of the game and have a couple made for the next book in the series. Gentlemen Prefer Villains, which I just revealed the cover for today. But right now I'm having him do like more of a character. I try to always have like a character art one where they're like mostly clothed and maybe it's a little suggestive or whatever, but right now I'm trying to debate like what the NSFW, the first print, I'm sure there'll be other ones, but it's like you have to decide, like, before the book is out, which is the scene that might have the most impact on people or that people will want to see. It's not like I can't go back and get more done, but it's.
Well, do you have people that go and they review books prior to releasing them and stuff like that so that they can?
Oh yeah, definitely. And I actually have a bunch of alpha readers in my doc right now, as I write it.
Yeah, I wanted to do that for so long and I can't figure out how, so I gave up. I want to do that so bad, but then the one time I found a book that I could do that for, they said, well, you get credit for it, right? Like, because it goes on your profile, like, look, you did this, and so people can say, okay, you've done a review, blah blah.
Yeah.
You had to do it on Goodreads and Amazon, but it hadn't released on Amazon, so I couldn't post a review.
Oh,
So they
yeah.
wouldn't give me credit. I'm like, well, fuck you then.
Yeah, that's tricky.
But no, I mean, honestly, I can
Yeah.
see like where those readers might be able to point out something. The only problem now, devil's advocate, the only problem is that somebody coming from the outside that isn't in that circle might have a bit, like, they might spot something that
Yeah.
that you wouldn't expect, right? There might be
I know.
an
It's
aspect
hard
of
to
it.
know. Like, okay, so back to the Vajuju Voodoo of Yaga's Riders. And I actually don't have any NSFW art for Yaga's Riders. I just have some like nice
I
character
just
art that I
picture her
had.
like the chick in the ring.
I mean, that's really, she's kind of like a hot version of the chick in the ring. Totally. But like when I first wrote that scene, I mean, that was probably the first thing that I ever wrote that really crossed a line. And I almost didn't put it in. I was like, I don't know. Like, I don't know if this is going to be the thing that makes people like put down the book or whatever. But the way people responded to that, like sometimes you just don't know. And so now I know better. Now I know when I make myself squirm with shit that I should definitely keep it in and take it further and make myself as uncomfortable as possible, because I get really flustered with certain things that I write, which sometimes make no sense compared to other things that I write that I don't bat an eye.
Right.
But I'm so thankful that I kept it in, that I stuck with my gut. I didn't play it safe. But like, that's just an example of like, I kept it in, I wasn't sure. And it definitely is a divisive thing. That is probably my most divisive series for a few different reasons. But there were definitely people who do read that part and are like, nope, nope. And that's fair. That's fair.
I've said this before. Like, that your book, okay, for example, I know some pretty filthy books. I actually found one that I considered one of the filthiest that I've read in a long time, and I went immediately bought a paperback. I have it. It's over there on my shelf. I'll go get it in a minute. But the point is I said, you the book's dirty. You know it is dirty. And someone spits in their mouth. Like, that's it. That's the moment that it's absolute smut. Because it's just, there's something about that. Like, that is an immediate, like, and either you keep reading, like, hell yeah, okay, this is going to be a good one, or you back off, like, whoa, that's too far. Like,
can I give you a little, since you brought it up, that's actually a really big part of the second Villainous Things book. It's a major kink of our boy Wolfie. One of his many.
Oh, God, I know who that is. Yeah, gotcha.
And I know that's a hard limit for some people. And it was actually a hard limit for me. What actually changed my mind, I saw I somehow, just because of the side of TikTok that I'm on, because of what I try to follow and who follows me, I actually saw a video of two people doing it, actually like spitting into each other's mouths, and something about actually seeing it and seeing them enjoy it, I was like, oh, because I'd never like actively like looked for it, because I was just like, oh no, I'm not into that. Like, no judgment to anyone who is. It's just not for me. Like bodily fluids like that, like no, you know what I mean? But actually like seeing it, I was like, that's fucking hot. And like, it just, something clicked, and it's something that I've wanted to write, and it just makes so much sense with this character. But I also know it's going to be such a hard limit for me. It's one of those things. Right. But you're right. It does seem to be this measurement of filth. So of course it makes sense that I write it. However, it's like,
well, okay,
there's a couple, I'm interested to see if the people who are really hardcore not into it will give it a chance in my book, because it's going to be listed. I with Himbos, I tried to list as many of the kinks as possible, as many of the content and the triggers, because I don't want to surprise people. Trigger warnings and content warnings are really important to me.
Same,
I really went,
Katie.
I went all above and beyond for Himbos. I'm trying to do that more from now on. I need to go back and like flesh out like my older series. But the same is it's going to be the same for Gentlemen Prefer Villains. And so it's going to say spit kink. It's going to say there is a spit kink in here. Probably going to put a note like, triple dog dare you to give it a try. Like, don't run. give it a try. If you still hate it, that's fine. But like I'm hoping that I can turn some people onto it because I know it's like it's a big nope for some people.
Well, Katie in the chat, she just said, I read a lot of kinks I wouldn't actually participate in, which that's why I
That's
said
so true.
completely agree. But
Yeah.
think of it this way, and this is not the same, so don't think that I'm like an ignoramus and I'm actually saying it's the same thing. When you make out with someone, you're swapping spit anyway.
I know. And it's not like we're not talking about, I mean, maybe some people are into it. We're not talking about someone like hawking a loogie.
Right. It's not like you
into
have a
your- it's not-
cold.
it's not like, I mean, as far as I know, like
Okay,
that's
there's
not
my
what we're
hard
talking.
limit right there. Is if you have a cold and you like sneeze on me, I'm done. I'm out.
Yeah. That's not what we're talking about. And
No,
I
not
feel
at
like
all.
there's definitely a fine line.
It's
But that's not what-
definitely
Yeah,
a
that's not
dominant
what we're
move.
talking-
It's a
Yeah.
big dominant move.
It is.
And it is establishing your dominance over that person.
It is, but it's interesting because obviously you're talking about things that you research. You can only imagine what an author like me or my author friends, like the things, our search history. I'm not even bothering with incognito tabs. I'm like, come and get me. Like just the shit that I'm Googling constantly. But obviously I've been researching spit kinks because it's not something that I personally do yet. But it is a dominant thing. But it depends. It depends. And I could be totally wrong. We'll see if someone's brave in the chat and like speaks up from experience. But like from my understanding and my research that I've found, it can be that. And that can be, especially if you're going for like the degradation type of spitting, which is totally its own thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's not really where I'm going with it in Wolfie's book.
Gotcha.
And it's more of a tactile thing, a trust thing.
Like I'm giving a piece of myself to you, and
Exactly.
I'm accepting.
Exactly.
I
It's
get what
more-
you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's apparently like there's just there's different levels of spit kink. Like who knew? So that's more where we're at with Wolfie's book because, and then people who have no idea what my books are about, like that's fine. But he's a supervillain. His power essentially is that his touch like kills.
Drains people's lives.
Drains people, like they're just like drains their powers, drains their life force. They're just dead. And so finding someone that he can actually touch, like he's like so touch starved and he just wants all the things. You know what I mean? And so like it kind of like just compounds on that of like just wanting to like feel everything. So that's really
I get
where
it.
he's
And
coming from.
like I said, I mean, like she said, or like Katie said earlier, there's a lot of people read stuff that they would never personally participate in.
Right.
And also I don't have a lot of, to be honest, my hard limits aren't the kink stuff. My hard limits are a whiny, bitchy main female character.
Yeah.
Like,
okay,
the one
fair.
who they're like, hey, I just read one yesterday. I actually, my poor mom, I had to tell my mom, I was like, oh my God, Mom. The main female character in this particular book that I read yesterday, she was done wrong, right? So she's all mad. And it was recent. She meets a guy. I'm not going to give details because I'm not going to like do that to somebody, an author.
Right.
Because I like their other books, but like 2 books in a row, I was like, oh, hell no.
Yeah.
He was like in love from minute 1, right? Chasing her, obsessed with her. She's mad at him, insulting him, rude to him. You're a piece of crap. Get away from me. You stuck up bastard. Like all this stuff, on and on. No matter what he did that was good for her, she was a bitch. And every time that she had a chance to screw him over, she did. And I'm like, it makes me so mad. And I just want to stop. And I told my mom, I said, one of these days, I'm going to fuck around and write a book. And what it's going to be, it's not going to be it will be a happily ever after, but not in the way you think. It's going to end when that guy is like, fuck you, bitch, and walks away.
Well, that's
Find somebody amazing, and she's just like, well, what the hell? Oh my God. But I love you. And he'll be like, screw you. You don't deserve me. And I'm going to be like,
well, that's what would have made 50 Shades of Grey good, is if it ended after book 1. Because she walks away because he's an abusive piece of shit. And like walks away at the end of that book. Unfortunately takes him back pretty soon into book 2, but man, it would have been such an HEA if she just walked away.
well, I liked his version And actually, when
I
I
actually
read
did not
his
read that. I did not read
when
that
I
one.
read from his perspective, I'll tell you this
Mhm,
right now. I always had a
mhm,
feeling that there was like, I don't want to say autistic type
mm,
behavior
okay. Like
and
some sort of
childhood
neurospiciness. Yeah.
childhood things, like where the rigidity of his structure of his life had
Mhm,
to be a certain way. Him needing to have control had a specific purpose and it came from somewhere.
mm,
I always felt that way. And when I read the books from his perspective, it confirmed everything I thought. And to be honest, he
yeah.
became the anti-hero for me. He was I love me. I love me the bad guys. So
Mhm,
I'm here for the bad guys. Like the unapologetically, I will kill everybody but the one I love. Those
yeah.
people, they'll shoot you in the face. Like I'm here for that. Those are my
Yeah.
people. But
Well,
yeah.
and this is why I always most of the time always write multi POVs. Like you hear from everybody.
Hmm.
Even when I have why choose where it's like a bunch of where it's up to 12 dudes and
Yeah, that was
Herculea.
a that was a that was a feat.
I'm never doing that again. But you always get POVs, and I try to keep them even as much as possible. Obviously, the in my why choose, the female main character gets the most
Right.
chapters, but I try to split it up evenly among the rest because I think it's so important to understand. I think the only time I purposefully haven't done that, the only story I've written so far where it was just the female main character's point of view was in a recent piece I did for a monster anthology. It's still up until March 1st. It's in the Monsters and Mistletoe
Oh yeah, yeah.
Christmas anthology. I did I chose my monster to be a biblically accurate angel, which anybody who wants nightmares can go Google that. It's just lots of eyes and wings and it's a crazy creature. It's not a cute little angel with like, like a little halo. But I purposefully made that story just from our girl's point of view because I didn't want you to know where the other guy was coming from, the hot priest in that story, because
Right.
there's a bit of a twist, and it would have just given it away. But other than that, I I like to. I mean, this is why I'm now. My life is now gay superheroes. I just like love writing male point of views. Like I have so much fun with them. And maybe that's why I liked Why Choose because there's like more men than women, and now I'm just writing these pairings of male.
I would think that
Um,
honestly,
yeah.
I like I said, one of my that hard limit of like the bitchy main female character, the one who like it's nothing's ever good enough. They're always like a victim. They're always the victim. Like they
Mhm.
never get
Yeah.
over anything and they're traumatized forever. Like, I'll take him, obviously you
Yeah.
don't. Um,
Right,
no, I'm
right.
just saying like that to me, I would think would be harder to write. Like to me to
It's hard.
write a character like that would be hard to write because it would irritate
Yeah.
the crap out of me. And I
Yeah, it's
get what
hard
they're
to write.
doing, but
Yeah, it's hard to write difficult characters. Like back to that my Yaga series, one
yeah.
of the men is such a little fucking bitch at the start. Like it's was my first enemies to lovers arc. If you don't count like two of the guys and each other in like my very first series, Wings of Darkness and Light, they kind of had an enemies to lovers arc too, but
Right.
that didn't include the main character. It was and I like okay, talking about genres and stuff we don't read. I actually don't enjoy reading bully romance. Again, no shame if that's your thing,
Which
but
I
nothing
do.
makes
So yeah, I get that.
but yeah, like it's like the guys being so mean, like literally my vagina makes the like windows shut down noise. Like it's just slam shut. Like I just cannot. Like, and I don't know. It's just like my own shit. Totally my own shit. And this was not bully. And this was definitely a female main character, our witch. She could fucking handle him. She was like, oh, don't come for me. Like gave it back. Like I wouldn't do that to like a more sensitive, easily hurt main character. But it was still really hard to write him because and it's so funny too, because I have readers who are like obsessed with, like, they loved him from the start because that's their type. You know what I mean? That's their man. And like, meanwhile, but then I get reviews who are like ranting about the toxic masculinity as if I hadn't done it on purpose, as if I didn't do it on purpose. I actually ended up putting it in I added it as a trigger because I was like, yes, I'm aware he's actually supposed to represent toxic masculinity. Thank you. But I was like, it doesn't last forever because it doesn't. And his character arc is so satisfying. He does a good grovel,
That's the whole point
but
of the bully stuff.
Well, right.
That's the whole
Yeah,
point.
the
Is
grovel
because
has to be good. Exactly.
right,
But yeah, that's the thing is that it is hard to write a dislikable character, but sometimes it has to be part of their arc too. You know, there has to be the arc. I mean, like if you're talking about a series where the main character was just like so unlikable the whole way, that's not part of the character arc then. That's just like a character flaw. You know,
yeah,
but I just ask that readers and it's hard. I know sometimes when you have like you do not have to finish a book. DNFing a book is totally fine, but sometimes like trust that the author has a plan that like we are aware that this person needs some character development and that's the point. I'm not saying that's the case in all of these books, but like it's definitely the case in mine and a lot of my author friends. It's like the character arc is part of the story, not
right,
just the
of
relationship
course,
arcs. You know what I
right.
mean?
I just
Yeah.
in this particular case, I
Yeah.
do tend to give it. There's only been I think like 2 books that I just couldn't anymore. Oh my god, like
Right.
I just
Right.
stopped. Not
Right.
often, but this particular one, I made it all the way to the end because I loved the main male character.
Mm,
And I'm like,
yeah.
can I have him? Because you obviously are like too up
Right.
your own
Not
ass and you don't
appreciating.
care.
Right. Right.
So and here's what I didn't like. And I'm talking to who cares? Whatever. It's my
Well, that's it.
podcast.
You're
I can
not
say what
saying
I want.
you're not saying the book, which is fine.
No,
Like
I'm not
you're
going to
allowed.
throw anyone
Yeah.
under the bus like
Right.
that unless it
Right.
was so like evil and wrong or something, and then
Well,
I'll do
right.
that
Right.
separate without putting you in the middle of that. Um,
Yep.
which I've never done that. So, but anyway, like her character was like shallow, bitchy. Everything
Right.
pissed her off. If you write that they are shouting, especially as a female main character, more than 3 times on a page, okay, she shouts, and it's something like, "Well, why are you shouting?" Like I'm like, "Why
Yeah.
are you
Like chill
shouting?"
out. Chill out.
She's like, "Well, don't you understand? My father just died." Yeah, you're shouting, and then 2 minutes
Yeah.
later, how can you be like this? And she's shouting again. I'm like, just
Right.
relax, okay?
Yeah.
So her flip, right? Because of course, for the happily ever after, her brain had to change, her attitude had to change, right? So we
Right.
get to that point. All of a sudden, she goes, "Oh, I like him,"
Like, that was
and
it.
and I almost died because she goes back to go like, "Please take me back," and he's like, no," and I was like,
Yeah.
"Yes," but he
Yeah.
did, and I was like, "Damn it."
Boo.
But yeah, it was like if it had been written if that her development had been like
Yeah.
I guess a little bit less
Yeah.
abrupt because
Yeah.
it's like, oh well, now I want to finish the book, so let's just like they like each other and move on. Oh, that's kind of how it felt, which it is what it is. I mean, I loved him. That's why I read the whole book.
Yeah.
I always say her name wrong.
Herculea. I know.
Herculea
I made it up. I made up the names. There you go.
irritated the shit out of me in the beginning.
Yep. That's all right.
Irritated me to
You
no
are not
end.
alone. You're not alone. Many reviews have made me well aware of that, which is fine. I mean, and it's funny because I mean, she's just supposed to be. I mean, when we meet her, she's working as a social media marketer in New York City, and like I come from a marketing background where I
Mhm.
went to school and worked in New York City. So like I'm using a lot of this on my own experience.
Right.
But she's supposed to be shallow. She's supposed to like her biggest dream is to be, and I'm not
Nailed
saying this
it.
makes someone shallow, but her biggest dream is to be like social media influencer and just like blah
Nailed
blah
it.
blah. Yeah, and so like that's it's like, and she's totally not dealing with some real heavy shit that happened in her life that she does deal with later on in the series,
Yep.
like serious avoidance, grief, and that's something that a couple characters of mine in different books have dealt with. And like grief is a tricky one because people deal with it in ways that don't always make sense. But it was funny to me because like again, like she's supposed to be a type, but it also lends itself to that book because that duet, the Hercule duet, it's supposed to be fucking ridiculous. It's ridiculous. It's the most rom-com-y, which I don't even know if that's a word, rom-com
It is now.
book. Yeah, it is now. Books that I've written. I mean, like it's just supposed to be it's monster romance. Dude has a tentacle penis that has its own feeding tentacles. I mean, like this is not like anyone who wants to take that too seriously, like that's fine, So
Which, by the way, if anybody was wondering why there was a tentacle on the thumbnail, That's why.
It's like Tentapene. I mean, you if you're gonna do monster romance, like especially with that many monsters, if I hadn't had tentacles, I actually broke the rules a little with that. Sorry, I'm now going on a tangent about the Tentapene, but the gist of 12 Hunks of Herculea and Herculea the Hero, the duet, is that our girl washes ashore. She's in a shipwreck. She washes ashore on Hot Bod Monster Island. It's a mystical island, of course, populated by these monsters who are kind of stuck in this almost human form for reasons you discover. But essentially, they all represent a different labor of Heracles. And
I love mythology, so yeah.
Yeah, and like I'm such a mythology research host. So I was like
would
having a
never have
time.
guessed.
Yeah, with my 10, 12 page glossaries in the back. But like I knew I wanted tentacles in there, but like I really, really twisted one of the labors to be able to make it a kraken. Like, I mean, he's an outsider. He's actually not a Greek.
You took
he's Norse.
creative license.
I took so much creative. It says it right in the blurb. It's like, this is very loosely based. Many ridiculous creative liberties taken. Don't come for me because it's really, it's not supposed to be this like retelling, But yeah, I knew I needed to have the Kraken, but the Kraken is not Greek mythology; it's Norse mythology.
Right.
So he's actually the one Norseman among all the Greeks. So at least I made sure that was correct. It wasn't just a random like Greek Kraken. But yeah, I mean, when you have tentacles,
10-foot testicle dicks, no.
Close. No,
but no.
and yeah, I mean, so if he's gonna have tentacles, he obviously needs to have a tentacle dick. And it's not like I invented that. I did not invent the Tentapene. It's been in plenty of other monster romances before me.
I can vouch for that.
Not invent. I don't think I've really invented anything besides maybe the Vajuju Voodoo. I don't know, maybe not. But I decided to, I was in my research looking at, I'd say video of giant squids. It's not really video. It's more like artistic renderings because it's really hard for people to like. Not many people have actually seen giant squids because they're so down in the depths of the ocean, which like make them even creepier. Like literally humans haven't seen them, which is so creepy. But seeing this artistic rendering of this like giant squid, like, because they're ambush predators, even though they're enormous, they just glide. They're like following this fish. And what happens is like they have all their tentacles, right? But what they have these two feeding tentacles that shoot out. They shoot out with hooks. They shoot out. It's terrifying. Like it's absolutely something out of a nightmare. They shoot these feeding tentacles out, hook the fish, rip the fish to where all the rest of the tentacles can be like, and like just like eat it. So I was like, oh well, how can I make
this dirty?
How can I make this dirty?
How can I sexualize this really
like,
terrifying, murder action that this squid does? Let's see.
So I gave the Tentapene its own feeding tentacles, but essentially because a big thing with monster romance is the breeding kink. These monsters just want to breed their mate. So essentially this is an evolutionary thing where his Tentapene has wiggled its way inside and the feeding tentacles they hook in to hold him in place so he can breed his mate. But meanwhile, I mean, it's just, but our girl is a human, she's like, what the fuck is that? I mean, can you just imagine? I tried to make her reactions as like legit. It was the first like human female main character I'd written. And she's just thrown into this monster world and she's being a good sport.
I was gonna say she's like rolling with it.
She's rolling with it because she's a proud hoe. Like she is a proud hoe. But there are certain things that she's just like, what the fuck? And that was a moment. But she was into it. But I mean,
chat is loving this, by the way.
And like, yeah, of course that I have I have my Facebook reader group, see Rochelle's Little Sinners, but I also keep a separate Facebook group that's just for my street and arc team. And so I made sure to torture them like with that video I found with the rendition of the feeding. I'm like, guess what? And like shit that they're all just like, what? But of course I didn't stop any of them. They're just like, give me, they were like they're totally game for anything, which is why I love them. But yeah, I had to share, like, if I can no longer, unsee something, I'm sure as shit gonna share that with other people, bring them along for the ride.
I mean, the thing is, okay, so, and here's a question, and I'm coming from a place of I kind of already know a generalized answer, so I'm curious what your experience with this is. So, anytime that you write monster romance of any sort, especially when a monster and human, you have to be careful. You have to be careful at what level
Right.
of beast they are at the time that they do the brown chicken, brown cow, because Amazon will nail the shit out of somebody for bestiality.
Yeah.
You've
And
got to
that's
be
tricky.
really careful. You
Yeah,
can't
monster-
have a full-on beast. See what I'm saying? Like you
Well,
gotta
yeah,
be
and
careful.
this is where it gets tricky a lot. Yeah, so a lot of romance, monster romance authors deal with this. A lot of shifter romance,
Yeah,
like wolf
that was the one I was
shifters,
thinking of.
which like my monsters are, and that's a divisive thing within monster romance, which is why I don't know if there's probably some readers who don't consider me a monster romance author, which is fine because it's not all that I write. But my men are essentially like monster shifters because of an enchantment, you know what I mean?
Right.
But like I don't typically write monsters that stay in beast monster form. I actually just did, there's a monster anthology coming out March 7th. It's the going to be the newest Monsters in Love anthology. It's a series of anthologies. And I believe what those anthologies are, this is the first one I've done, but I believe what they're known for is that the monsters stay in monster form. So that was actually the first time that I did a monster who stays in monster form. So the big thing is that to make sure that it's a sentient monster, they can consent, which consent is a huge thing for me anyway, which I went so hardcore on the consent in the Herculea duet, because that's another thing with monster romance where there can be, depending on what flavor of monster romance you enjoy, which is totally, again, there can be some real like dub-con, non-con situations,
absolutely.
Because
then you have the inner beast take over, like you have that instinct take over, like when they talk about rutting and stuff like that, that's it just is a thing. And it makes sense, but then you've got people who are like, oh my god, like they freak out. I'm like, dude, it's a fucking book. Like, stop.
And that's again where trigger warnings come into play. Like the closest we get in the Herculea duet, and the closest that I'll ever really get in my writing, just because of my own personal preference, is like the consensual non-consent, the CNC, as we abbreviate it to. Like that is pretty much where I stop. There's definitely some of that in Wolfie's book too, just because like that they're both into it. Like that's the point.
Right. Exactly.
It's like playtime. But yeah, that's the thing. It's like, and that's where Amazon, again, it's like, then you have to like, what? Like if your book gets pulled down, like, do you then have to like prove that it's a sentient being, even though they don't shift all the way into human form? What about my monsters where they're mostly in human form, but their dicks sure are not. the cocks and cock pockets, not human.
By the way, Champagne Rain, I see your question there. You did miss something. What Wallflower is talking about is Wallflower is talking about the first dude that Herculea meets in the book. So that is what she's talking about. I'm assuming Wallflower, because otherwise that statement makes absolutely no fucking sense.
Which one are we? What are we talking about? The barbed peen? That was the first one. Yeah, and that was again my search history being very questionable, because with following
I'd love to be your internet provider, like
oh my god, right? I'm just like, sorry, not sorry. Don't even try to hide it. But like trying to follow these labors of Heracles, the first labor was the Nemean lion, and that's who our first guy, Ambrose, is. So I had to, look up what are cat dicks like, because I wanted to be as close as possible. And they are barbed. Again, same reason as the feeding tentacles. It holds them in. It literally, not so much holds them in place. That particular one, it's because this is going to make all the ladies or anyone with that equipment, like the scrape of the barbs coming out stimulates ovulation. I don't know why. I have no idea why, but that is why these cat peens have it. Do with that what you will. But I wanted it to be as true to life as possible.
Right, I
But
get it.
again, it's like, and again, Herculea at that point, she thinks she's just dealing with a dude. She didn't like,
She's like, you're pierced. Okay.
she thought because it was dark and he
Look before
started
you leap,
to
honey.
shift.
Look before you leap.
Yeah, exactly. Like, well, also in that case,
Yeah, I guess
he'd
really
been very, like he was very much stuck in his human form and kind of started to shift a bit while inside her. It just happened to be.
And he hadn't in so long that he had no clue that was going to happen. So he was
Right,
surprised
exactly.
too. No,
Exactly.
I get that.
But again, it's her human reaction of being like, Jesus, fuck, that hurt. Like, what the fuck, dude? Like, you're pierced. You know what I mean? But, it was funny to me to play with. Like, how would this human be dealing? Because, like, you wash ashore on some island, you're not going to assume you washed ashore on Hot Bod Monster Island, like, as a regular person, unless you're, like, dreaming of it, like being, paranormal romance hoe, like so many of us. But, like, so just having fun with those very human reactions before the big moment, which is quite a moment, where she suddenly realizes, oh, like, these things are not what they seem. And it's quite a scene where she realizes that. But until then, she's been just making excuses. I mean, like, you try, as the human brain, you're just going to try to find logical explanations.
But she rolls with it. Like, she's
like,
with
it. She's like, I'm here. Like,
you
cool.
too, and me, and then you, and then we're going to do this, and then I'm going to get you to do that. Oh, okay,
right.
Cool. Let's do that.
But again, it's like, that's why her personality.
Okay, cool.
Her personality had to be a certain way.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, she couldn't be very uptight,
super sensitive victim
mentality. No
like,
drama llama girl. Like, she had to be this like outrageous, proud hoe, like, that had to be her personality, because otherwise it wouldn't make sense for her to be like cool with like whatever's going on. Like, so it was definitely a conscious choice to make Herculea the way she was. But I totally get it. And like, even my writing style is off-putting to some people at first. And that's totally fair. Like, all of us as readers, like, there are writing styles that we just don't vibe with, and that's totally fine. But like, my writing style, it's casual, and there's slang, and you hear a lot of like inner monologue, like inner thoughts, and the humor and the banter. It's just the way I write. But like, and it is off-putting to some people at first, but and even when it is, some people still stick it out and then they like grow to like it. But I totally get, like, some people will read it and be like, this is not, like, I can't handle an entire book of this. Like, no.
Well,
like, that's fair.
I say it all. I mean, I don't like this isn't. It's not like I make this statement like every 3 days. Like, but when I do talk about it, when I do talk to authors, I always make clear for anybody that doesn't know, which I'm sure everybody kind of has a brain and they know, authors have a voice. Like, you can. There's a tonality you have inside of your writing that is unique, and you can catch it. Like, so when you have your favorite writers or someone that you follow, or like you're going down the rabbit hole, you're binging all their books and new stuff comes out, there's a familiarity with it because it's the tone that you write in, right? And even if you're writing monster stuff, you're writing about angels, if you're writing about Bob down the street who just got a new dog, like, there's still that tonality is still there. You can still feel your essence in your writing because it's your personality, it's your style. Right. So I don't like how some people talk sometimes. I'm like, good God, your voice is obnoxious. Oh my God, I just don't know what I'm going to do. Like, that kind of stuff. Like, oh, bless your little heart. Fuck off. I don't want to hear it.
Don't get me started on bless your heart, but that's all right.
No, I'm just saying.
I'm a New Englander, so we don't fucking say that. We just tell you to, like, go fuck yourself.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's like people's voice, the way they sound, the words they use. Like, when people, for example, this is a good one. Anybody, if you know in my server. So just saying, I'm not going to elaborate any more than this. if you come around and you talk big and you talk like you're about it, you're going to be like this and you talk that way, but you're not, and we know it, like your voice annoys me. I don't want to hear you talk
Yeah.
in that some type of way. I
Yeah.
don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear people being like, trying to be, it's like if somebody was trying to mimic something else. Like it irritates me, so I would walk away. It's the same with, you know, how people
Yeah.
write. I
Right.
read a book, and I'm going to be honest, it was in a book club. Okay. I was so irritated. Imagine it wasn't first person, it wasn't third person. It was like some bastardized version of that.
There is a second person, which don't ask me to explain what that is because I only write first person.
Well, okay, so there's the
Yeah.
difference
Yeah.
between, and you know this, I'm not telling you anything, I'm saying
Yeah,
something for them,
no,
but
yeah.
there's a difference between I
Yeah.
moved the microphone, I looked
Yeah.
into the camera, I looked at the screen, right? It's my
Yeah.
perspective. There's a
Yeah.
difference between that and she.
Yep.
She moved the microphone, she looked into the camera, she looked back at her, she responded, okay? So there's the other one. Then you
Yeah.
have what this was I've never seen a main character's name mentioned like on almost every other sentence.
Oh.
Like I'm like, well, so but it was supposed to be from her perspective,
Yeah.
but they kept pulling back. So okay, my
Yeah.
perspective comes from here, right? It comes from my
Right.
eyes. But you can't do my perspective from over there in the corner. Like that doesn't work that way. It's either through my eyes or it's not. And you have to
Right.
stick with the tone and you have to stick with the context.
Right.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like, in my opinion, I understand that like you could change it up if you like pull back to be a narrator in the middle of a book and that
Right.
works for the book. But if you're talking from my eyes and I'm saying, I thought, I did, I said, and then you're pulling back in the middle of the paragraph to like a little bit further distance, I think that I was like, I couldn't read it because it irritated me.
Yeah.
The tone, the context
And
was
I'm
all wrong.
I'm trying to think if that's actually a thing or if that person or that author just
Well,
didn't.
people were raving about this book. I'm going to tell you right now, the book
Yeah.
never had the entirety of the book. They never concluded anything. You never solved any problems. You never learned anything really new. It was kind of left as a cliffhanger. You didn't develop love for like any of the characters. They would introduce 8,000 characters, but they never focused and developed any of them.
Yeah.
Like it was like the most odd thing. And then I'm like, and people are like, oh, this is so great. I'm like,
You know what it's making me think of? It's making me think of like Fight Club, where it's like, I am
but that would be interesting.
I am Jack's raging bile duct. You know, it was like this weird mix of like, and obviously we find out why, of like first and third person. But yeah, it
and I
removes
get what
you
you're
from
saying, but see,
perspective.
at
Yeah.
least that was written interesting.
Yeah.
This one I'm saying, like, there was not a single redeeming quality. Like, they introduced that this might be something. There's something about the father, and there's something about this, like,
Yeah.
you know, here over here, and then she's super powerful, but she's not. But is she? But they never actually tell you anything. And it's like, it was a big fat glob
Yeah,
of disappointment.
my attention span is way too short for
Yeah.
books like that. It's also another reason, again, personal preference, why I don't read high fantasy. I
Oh,
can't. I just can't. And it's totally
like
because
super
of
world building. Like,
yeah,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
that's why I don't, and I do get a lot of good reviews on my world building,
Right.
but I figured out how to do just the right amount that I would like as a reader. Because
get
like
that.
if it's too much, I just tune out and I skim, and I don't want people to do that. I like to keep shit moving in my books. And I like to focus. It's more about the character and the relationship arcs and the banter. It's more about the banter in my books than describing the room that we're in perfectly.
Oh, I had,
You know what I mean?
I
Like,
posted it in my server, a different book from the same book club. Go figure. I'm
Yeah.
like raging against it.
if you need to move, like leave that book club. and
No,
just-
I mean, the people there are
Amazing.
amazing. It's just for some
Amazing.
reason we just keep hitting these books that personally, see, they won't do dirty. So I'm like, well, I'm fucked.
Yeah. Oh,
But
yeah.
they described someone's outfit. They described
Yeah.
what it looked like, the texture of the shirt versus the hem, the fringe
Yeah.
around the edge,
Oh,
the
yeah.
color, their
I would have
shorts. Their,
I
I'm
would have
like,
just glazed over.
I
Yeah.
did. I was like,
Yeah,
this
and
is
it's
too
totally
much.
right. And it's just, and again, it goes back to we're talking about the writing style and the voice. Like I write books the way in the voice like that I enjoy reading books. And I'm
Right.
not the only one who writes like similar. I mean, you can definitely tell my books, like my voice, but I do notice that the books I enjoy reading, it's a similar kind of writing style
Mm-hmm.
where like it just keeps things moving and it gives you just enough info so you're not lost, but like things are moving and that you're just not getting bogged down with the hem. I mean, it is a little tricky with Wolfie's book that I'm working on now because again, he's so touch starved. So I'm trying to make myself stop, especially when he's like experiencing certain things for the first time because and it's his POV, it's his point of view,
Right.
like to make sure that like those kind of like cuz it's all about the sensations. So like there's a time and a place for it. But there's also time and a place where like I'm not going to stop the action because I do have alpha readers and actually one of my alpha readers, she's a beloved author friend. She writes under the name Ariel Dawn, but she knows that one of the reasons she's in there is to help me if there's an area where I am not describing stuff enough, she'll like put a little note. But I don't she also knows that she doesn't take it personally. I do not listen to her sometimes. And I also like
As
or
is
I'll
your
just
right.
add like the what?
As is your right. Like
Yeah, exactly. And
it's
or like
constructive.
I'll
It's
just
constructive criticism. You take it or leave
right.
it. Take it for what it's
Right,
worth.
exactly, and it's more like 'cause sometimes it's in the middle of like a sex scene or like some really important back and forth dialogue, and I'm like, "I'm not gonna slow down the action right now." Like, I'm just not. And it's just totally my preference. But that's why it's like where I tell people, like, don't feel bad about DNFing a book. Like,
Mm-hmm.
if it's not for you, if the style isn't for you, if it's not giving you enough description or giving you too much, like, don't torture yourself. You know
No,
what I mean?
exactly.
Like, my readers know that I love to tease. Like, I am the queen brat for sure, and I just, like, love to tease in my books. Um, but I do not wanna torture people in that way. Like, I do not want someone to feel like they need to, like, torture themselves with my book if they're really not enjoying my style. Like, please go find something that you really enjoy. Like, I want that for you. And please do not leave me a scathing review just because you didn't like the style. Like,
See,
unless you found something very problematic, like that's a little different. But if you just don't like, if it's something just not your cup of tea, like just move on. Like,
see,
just
like
move on. Find something you love.
I don't usually leave bad
Yeah.
reviews. But
Yeah.
for the book that I'm talking about, where the context, I'm like the perspective was just so skewed. I was like, I had to
Yeah.
say something, like she cared, but whatever. But
Yeah.
then the only other one that I've left like a scathing review it was like one of a series of books that all kind of interlocked, and I was like reading every single one, and 99% of them were amazing. This one had two amazing female or male main characters, right? Because it was a why choose, but it was like a two guys and one female.
Yep.
And she was a journalist, right? And they're trying to get all this dirt, and they're technically part of the mafia, whatever, it doesn't matter. So she's like, I'm sorry, journalist characters are some of my least favorite because they're like, I don't care what it takes, I'm going to do what's right. And I'm like, you're getting all
You're like, I don't like
you're-
these morals of
you're
yours.
getting
Like,
the
take them
dick.
elsewhere.
Like, they're dicking you down good. Like, shut
Yeah.
the fuck up and don't say anything. Like, protect their secrets, bitch.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just saying. And she goes through, and they have this amazing time. The next day, she submits all of their secrets, everything, just exposes them, and they're still like, oh, honey. I'm like, the fuck?
Oh yeah. No.
I'd be like, no, this is the time to show that, like, the happily ever after where you, like, bury the body.
Right.
And I was like,
Yeah.
I said, I liked the guy characters. I said, but I tried to like her. I've never disliked a character as much as I disliked her. Like, I just wanted to strangle her the whole time. And I don't like feeling that. That's why I give it a chance. And I get all the way to the end. And I always try to make sure that the review and the rating screen pops up so that, I want everybody to get the credit for getting the full book read, all of that stuff for what that's worth. And I always try to at least put star reviews, whether I write a review or not. But that one, I just had to be like, she is a raging piece of crap and I hate her.
Yeah. And you know what? It's
And I only done that twice in like 3 years. So
yeah, but I don't want to make it sound like people aren't allowed to leave. I mean, people are allowed to leave any review they want. Like, I am not the review police. And like and they are useful to other people because you're talking about a POV being like just really hard to read because you couldn't figure out if it was first, second, or third or some weird mix. or the fact that there were some things that a main character did that you personally, based on your own moral code, felt were unforgivable and that there wasn't proper groveling, like that is useful for other people to
Right.
read.
Well,
Like
also,
personally, like,
it can
so
validate their
yeah,
opinion also. So it's like, oh,
yeah,
thank God it wasn't
yeah,
just me. Other
exactly.
people thought the same.
Exactly.
Like,
Because I mean, we all read books. Like I actually really enjoy reading reviews on other people's books. Um, for the validation. It's almost like a little, like I'm such an introvert. It's actually like a little introvert book club because you're like, oh, they love that part too, or whatever. You know what I mean? But like when you do see the part where it's like, I didn't like this specific thing, and you're like, oh thank God, like I thought it was just me. You know what I mean?
yeah. Well,
Like it's totally, it does have its place. I think it's really just as long as you're not tearing apart an author as a person,
no.
there's no right or wrong way to do a review. And because yeah, and even the reviews that complain about certain things, like that is a shopping list to other people, whether it's too much sex, which of course to some of us are like, oh okay, well then I'm gonna buy that.
That's
Or
me. The trigger warnings. I look for trigger warnings,
right,
y'all.
right,
Like, I want
exactly.
those
Trigger
hashtags.
warnings, yeah,
I
they
put in
trigger
there
warnings are a shopping list for
dark
sure.
romance trigger. Like that's literally my search terms. I could
Right,
bring it up on my phone and show you. That's what I search for.
right,
I
and that's
want it
what's
to have a trigger warning because then I'm
and
like,
that's
oh,
what's funny, because, you know, people sometimes I do think certain reviewers think they're really sticking it to us when they, like, rant and rave, and I'm like, "You're just selling my book, go right ahead."
it's like
You
people
know
in
what
the
I mean? Like,
comments. Yeah.
some of the things people, like, bitch about my books, I'm like, "Go right ahead, you're making me money." Because, I mean, it's just true, like,
Mhm.
because one person's cup of tea is another person's, you know, haunted bog water, whatever, you know, they're
Like
just,
that
like,
went too
not
far. Yes, there's
right.
such a thing as consent. And I'm like, ooh,
Like, "Oh, okay, let me" exactly. So yeah, I mean, it's so there's something for everyone,
no, there
you
really
know?
is. And
Right.
like some of the stuff that even we've talked about today so far, some of those things people are like, ooh, that's not for me. Well, that's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, totally fine.
I mean, that's totally fine. But the thing is that you can read about something and be like, okay, well, that's not something I would participate in, or I don't
Right.
like that, and that's fine. That doesn't take away from the fact that you're a good writer, that you have, great books,
Mhm.
and that people really enjoy your work. I mean, that doesn't take
Yeah.
anything away from it. It's
Yeah.
just a personal opinion.
Yeah.
I personally don't think people should kink shame. I think anything that has to do with something that violates my moral code, and my moral code is, everybody knows what this is. It's attacking other people and
Yeah.
kids. Like, other than that,
Yeah.
do you, boo boo?
Yeah. Yeah.
As long as I'm not forced on anything. But I
Right.
like reading crazy stuff. I love it.
Right.
Like, the
Right,
vanilla
and
stuff doesn't do it for me. I mean, it's not. I'm
I
not even
know.
reading just for sex. I'm reading, and I say this all the time. If someone is going to write a book, right, that is going to cross all these lines and mention all of these salacious, triggering, dirty things,
Mhm.
okay, you're writing around the triggering, dirty sex scenes is going to be balls to the wall too,
Mhm.
because
Yeah.
you're already
Yeah.
going there. So you gives no fucks. So
Right.
you're gonna make the characters that dark
Yeah.
and twisty and crazy, or
Yeah.
is. Do you see what I'm saying? It gives an extra level of, not commitment, but like, you're willing to
Well,
go
it's
there.
the characters. I mean, like, you know, I'm talking about, you know, Wolfie, who I'm writing right now, and, you know, there's certain kinks that I knew he was gonna have because of what I already knew about him. But I'm a pantser. I mean, I write as I go. Um, I'm not totally making it up as I go. I do have like I know how the book's gonna end. I know some I know certain big moments, and I kind of like jump skip to there, but everything in between just it comes out. But their kinks, they appear during the writing, and sometimes they surprise me. That's the point, is that as I'm meeting this character and as I'm creating this character, like what they like, you know, in and out of the bedroom also reveals itself. And it might be something that they wouldn't have thought they were into at the beginning, and then something happens and then they want to try this and blah, blah, you know. So it's part of the character development, like I you know, readers are reading my books and meeting these characters and getting to know them. Like the same process is happening with the author when we're first writing them. Like we're also getting to know them,
Right.
you know, and some characters are harder to know than others. And sometimes I'll do like Enneagram. I don't know if that's how you say it, like Enneagrams, or, you know, personality, figure out when their birthday is. If you want to get into like Zodiac, like figuring out certain core, you know, their core motivations. Sometimes that helps, but other times I just have to kind of write and stuff comes out as I write. And that includes kinks. And sometimes they sneak up on me, like the infamous kink that snuck up on me in Not All Himbos Wear Capes. I mean, that was a kinky fucking book.
It really was.
But there's, you know, and this isn't a spoiler because they eventually both, the villain and the hero both figure out that they're a villain and a hero. And so there's a long awaited, you know, sex in the super suits scene because we all love a man, hot man in tight super suits. And that scene just was like, I mean, it was just full of so many different things happening that you had already seen in the book or something new. But there's just a moment. I mean, we have a dom sub relationship here, and there's some degradation and praise. And there's just a moment where, you know, our villain Xander, like, you know, snaps his fingers and tells our hero Butch to crawl to him, which he's like more than happy to do, you know. And so he's crawling to him, but then when he gets to him, it's like Xander just slides his boot in front of him and is like, lick it. I did not fucking see that coming. And I got so fucking flustered. I don't know why. Like, looking at everything else in that book, why would one scene of boot licking, which, I mean, he goes for it. He licks that boot and he enjoys it. But like,
and it wasn't like an ankle boot, y'all. It was like
no, it was a knee. It was a superhero knee
high
boot.
boot.
Like, he went from toe to knee slowly. But like, that came out of nowhere. Like, I did not know that was going to happen. And I'm like, already, I'm still flustered about it. And like, I had to like walk away for a bit, but it made perfect sense. And it was funny because it ended up being a fun thing for me to poll my readers about, like in my Facebook group. I'm like, I want y'all to guess what part made me flustered in this book. And I listen, I'm like, it's in this scene. This is your clue. And I listed out every single kink in that scene, which was quite a bit because I wanted to see. And those fuckers in my group, because I told them, I'm like, if you guess it, I will read that scene out loud on Facebook Live. And I did not in a million years think they were going to guess it because there's so much, I guess, like what most people would consider crazier shit happening in that scene. And they didn't technically win. It was like a couple votes off. It was so close because what actually won was snowballing, which doesn't bother me at all. Should I explain what it is? I guess I could explain what it is.
Please do.
So snowballing, essentially, someone ends up with a mouthful of cum, and the other person, the giver of the cum, wants them to kiss, and they kind of exchange it back and forth, I guess, building a snowball. I guess that's why it's called that. Anyway, that happens a lot in that book because that's a personal kink of Xander's. But anyway, that was at what technically won the poll, but like right behind it, like 1 or 2 votes off, was bootlicking. I'm like, how the fuck? And I was like, fine. I wasn't going to be that much of a dick. So there is a Facebook Live. Like, you can find my like sweaty Facebook Lives, which are generally that when I lose a bet or we reach a goal, like a pre-order goal or something, you know, and I'll be like, okay, I'll read a scene of your choice or whatever. People love them because I get so flustered and I'm like constantly drinking my water and just like, I had a really hard time reading that scene.
We found the chat's hard limit there.
Oh my God, really?
The guys are like,
with what, the boot licking or the snowballing? I mean, yeah. Sorry, not sorry. All the men are dying. They are. It's so funny.
That's funny. I mean,
they were fine with the docking.
I mean, they're good with the money shots, right? They're usually good with money shots. They're good with like bukkake and all this stuff.
They're fine with it going in our mouths, dude.
Like they're good with all this stuff, but then all of a sudden it's like, you know, you might have to put your tongue on it, and they're like, "Oh hell no!" Okay, well I get that, but you know,
we got such prim and proper men in this chat.
Yeah, but you know what? They stay the whole time.
I know, they're like, tell me more. but yeah, so it wasn't the snowballing. Snowballing does not bother me at all. But yeah, the bootlicking, and it's so funny. It made me all flustered, but then it made me all flustered. And I'm like, it's like that meme where they're like, that with the kombucha girl, where she's like, do I like this? I don't like this. Oh wait, do I like this?
I
It
use
was
that all
like
the
that
time.
kind of reaction. Yeah, exactly. And so like, and that again, like I got so flustered writing it, but I was like, I'm leaving it in. I'm leaving it in. And it became like people loved it. Like they loved it. Like people like when they pull like on Instagram where they pull quotes from the book and make like cute little graphics and do their reviews, like bootlicking came up. Like people, and it's not even that long of it's not a whole scene. So I just try to like trust my instincts, even when something makes me squirrely and squirm, I'm like, all right,
Yeah.
I'm gonna I'm gonna keep going with this.
Like for example, okay, I'll share something personal. For example, when you're talking about the JJ Juju,
Bajuju
the
voodoo.
stank on it, okay?
Yeah.
Okay, I don't care how much
Yep.
or how little.
Right.
Personally, like don't do that and then come up here. I don't
Hey, fair.
I don't want, like, if I wanted me, I
Right.
have access to that
Right.
anytime. I don't need you to share that with me.
Yeah.
That doesn't
Right.
make it hotter to me. But I
Right.
can read about it and be like, I
Right.
can see that that's like a thing. And most people that write,
Right.
that's a thing that they write about is because that's supposed to be so hot to like taste themselves. Like, not it.
Right. And you do actually you do. I'm trying to remember now if I actually did that. It's like it's been a couple years now since I wrote that series. I cannot actually remember if he kisses her after or if she reacts to it. But you do read that in books sometimes, like I could taste myself on him, blah, 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 like however they write it. And it's like a hot thing when you read about it.
Right. And I understand
Right.
it's supposed to be a
Right.
hot thing. But to me,
Right.
like, for example, when I read it, I'm
Right.
not like, oh, no, I'm just like, better you than me, honey.
Well,
It's
that's like
just a
so much in these books. Better you than me, but I'll still read it.
No, absolutely. Like, well, yeah, I've tried that. And that's just not for me. A lot
Right.
of times that's what I say. I'm
Right.
like, well, I understand, but
Right.
already tried, been there, done that. Now I'm just
Yeah.
going to read about it because I don't want to do it again.
Right.
I just think it's funny because, for example, when you're talking about like snowballing and the guys are all like, oh my God. I mean, on one hand, don't knock it till you try it. But on the but on the flip side of it, right? I think the point that is being missed is that whether it's a specific kink or they're so caught up in the moment at the time that
Right.
that shit doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's a lot. Yeah. That's
And
a lot of it.
Generally, that's the hot part
Right.
about it for me. That's
True.
the part about it is they're so
The inhibitions are gone.
yeah, like
Yeah.
that's why the up against the wall type stuff, the
Right.
hair, all of that is
Right.
better when they've lost it. That they've lost all of their,
Right.
Jared's like, nope, I'm not trying it. I get that. But the point is,
Come on, Jared.
like right now, you have to go try it. Oh, wait. I'm just kidding. I would never. But no, I'm just saying, like, I think part of the point and why you can kind of glaze over. Oh, that was perfect. Okay.
And that's my humor, people. If you think that's funny, you read my books. That's the humor right there.
Okay, I'm good. The reason you can kind of just skim over it a little bit is because you understand that as a whole, the scene in and of itself is so intimate and into each other and in the moment.
Totally.
And I'm sorry, I don't care who you are. We've all
Right.
had moments where something happened that we weren't expecting
Right.
because you were just not paying attention or someone wasn't
Right.
paying attention. I'm just saying,
Right.
don't even pretend like that's not a thing because it is.
Right.
I'm just saying you can kind of skim over that if it's not your thing. But if it's a hard stop, then people, close the book and
Yeah,
Not
I
a big
know. Yeah, and that's a thing. Like, yeah, and some people do read things purposefully that they wouldn't do in real life because I
Right.
mean it's escapism or they're working through something or they're curious, but maybe I don't want to try it in real life or I know I don't want to try it in real life. I still really like reading. There's just so many levels of like how people are perceiving something on a hotness scale, or
Right.
whatever you want to call it. But yeah, I mean, that's the thing. And that's, going back to you asking about hashtags, like that's what I mean when it's like filthy, like just filthy. Like I have an author friend who has actually flat out told me that she won't, like, she loves my writing style and like the excerpts that I'll post. She's like, but she knows how filthy it gets. And she's like, I just can't, because of like, in her mind, I think it's like she just has like a cleanliness thing where like she's just like, I can't. Like, I can't. And I'm like, that's fine. That's fine. I mean, like, you know, if you know that you're going to get like
squeegee afterwards.
severely grossed out by shit that I write, like, that's fine, you know. But my characters, they're having a time. They're having a good time. And
And I
it is
think that's
messy.
kind of the point. I mean, that's the point.
Yeah.
Like, you know,
Right.
people read different types of books for different reasons, right?
Right.
And they appreciate different aspects of it for different reasons. Some people read a porn magazine for the pictures, of course, right?
Or
Some
the
people
articles.
get bored on the toilet and they actually read the articles because they forgot to bring a new magazine. But you see where I'm going with this, right?
Yeah.
People read things for all different reasons.
Right.
And, you know, if you don't like it, put it down and get something else. But like
Right.
for me, it's, I think it boils down to the inhibitions of an author, even like how far you're willing to go with your characters and your storylines. Because
Right.
if you can do all this filth, well, then you can bury bodies. And like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you're going to
Right.
go that distance with these
Right.
characters. Like, you're not going to hold back because you're trying to, you know, keep it PG, you know?
Well, right. I mean, you're going to find sex jokes in my books and murder jokes. I mean, like, you know, it's like, it's both. It's both, you know, like the dark humor, it, you know, knows no boundaries. Like, it's just the same level of irreverence in and out of the bedroom.
Right.
Because like, it's just, it should be fun. You know, I'm not trying to write the next great American novel, you know, but I understand the rules of writing enough. Like, writing was always my favorite subject, like the kind of creative writing or English class or whatever it was called in all, you know, levels of school or whatever. And so like, I understand the rules. It's the same as, you know, being a graphic designer and, you know, designing my own covers. I understand the rules, but therefore I can then break them. And that comes
Right.
with any creative field or any field, I guess, where like you understand, like I understand sentence structure. Like, I might not always follow it. I might not always follow what someone would expect from, you know, some Pulitzer Prize winning novel. Like, I'm probably not going to write my sentences in the same way as that because that's not my voice.
Right.
So it's, you know, this, I mean, and besides just, you know, grammar and sentence structure, also with the way characters behave, you know, misbehave. Like, they're not following rules, and sometimes they're gonna piss people off.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and like that's just like real life people do, right? Like sometimes people like, and that's what makes them so human, though. You know, people make bad decisions. Like an ongoing joke is that I love the miscommunication trope, and I know it's a hot take. People do not like it, and I can agree with you when it's done badly or it's literally just done as like there's nothing else to the plot, so we're going to throw in a miscommunication to like shake things up like out of nowhere. Like, yeah, okay, that's
It's like when you groan and go, of course you did that.
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
that
like
was
that's
Linda's.
so
Like,
I get it, and I get where the hatred for it comes from. Like, it's a valid thing to dislike when it's done really poorly, totally. But it's miscommunication is like just such a human thing. Like, we like no, like people are so bad at communicating. You know what I mean? Unless you're like,
it has to be done well, though.
yeah,
And it
yeah,
has. It
yep,
can't be. I'm in love. We're in love. We're having the best time of our lives. The
right,
guy down the street says, "You look hot," and you're like, "Oh!" And they say
right,
thank you, and you're like, "Oh, you were gonna go screw him." So now I'm leaving you, and
yeah,
I'm packing my shit
yeah.
and going. And it's like,
Yeah, no,
the
I know
hell?
exactly. Right. And so when I tell people, when I, you know, stir the pot by saying I love the miscommunication trope, that's not what I mean. I do
Right.
mean
I
when it's
figured you didn't
done
mean that. I'm just saying,
right.
like,
Yeah.
that's where
Yeah.
I'm like, if I have to roll
Yeah.
my eyes over and over during a book, I'm not a
Right.
happy person.
Right. Right. The too stupid to live, whatever character. Um, but yeah, but I do love to throw in moments of miscommunication because I feel like it helps the characters develop. but they have to develop from it.
Because they
It
have
can't
to
just
work
be like
through
you
it in
said.
one way or another.
Right. It can't just be like you said, like you were talking to him and you're obviously gonna fuck and blah blah blah. And then like they never like no one ever apologizes or nothing gets explained. Like it's just this random thing that happened to like
Or even worse, they
blow
get back
shit up.
together and it just gets left flapping in the
That's
wind,
what I
and you're
mean.
like,
Yeah. It never, yeah, like that's different.
yeah.
But yeah, I don't actually know where I was going with that. I've kind
Well,
of lost my train of thought.
I know what you're saying though. What you're saying is that it's a good way to develop the characters, because they have to learn how to communicate. They have to understand each other better, right?
Right.
It grows them as people, as characters, and their relationship as a whole.
Right.
And so I can understand where you're coming with that. I think that if it's done right, it's going to be done. It's not going to stick out and me go, oh my God, I hate that, because it's going to be done well and it's going to be seamless. It's going to be part of the story, and it's not going to be like a hard stop where you're like.
Yeah, I think a good indicator, because I'm thinking of the books I love, not thinking of mine, but thinking of books that I read, because I do love a certain level of angst, and a lot of angst, especially like I primarily read contemporary MM, which is funny because it's not what I write. I am now writing just MM, but it's, I guess, paranormal, it's superheroes and villains. It's hard to say. It's not contemporary, but it's not like whatever. Anyway, but contemporary, I like reading contemporary because I can shut parts of my brain off that I think get really overworked with writing monsters and paranormal and epic save the world, because you don't have that generally in contemporary romance unless there's some high stakes like military or something where there is like actual external high stakes. But I love the contemporary MM because you're really focused on those characters and the development. And so the angst generally is internal, whether it's something that happens between them or it's external, but like a family member does something or like whatever, like it's very like a close situation. And yeah, it forces it's angst. There might be a misunderstanding, but the indication that it's done well is that I want to keep reading. I don't get like so pissed off that I'm just like, oh,
Like I said, my eye roll indicator.
The eye roll where you're just like, I don't even fucking care what happens to these fools.
And I'm like,
they
sure, I'll
fucking
keep
deserve
going.
it. They deserve whatever's happened. Like when you're just
I
like,
feel
oh
that
God.
way sometimes. You're like, you know what, bitch, you deserve that.
Right.
In fact,
but like,
I hope he fucks all of the women.
but like the angst where you're like, oh God, and like you just feel for them because it's relatable. Even if like it's not an exact situation you've ever been in, but it's relatable and you just want to see them see it through. Like to me, like that's the right level of angst where you're still upset with them. They're still being fucking idiots. And it's okay. Like, I'm sure the author did that on purpose. You're supposed to be mad. They're idiots. They're being idiots right now, both of them or one of them. Like, sure, it was by design, but like you're in it with them and like you want to keep going. You know what I mean? That's a good indicator of like when that sort of trope is done well, because you're just like, okay, I need to like no sleep tonight. Like
no, absolutely. Absolutely.
Right.
Like when I'm blazing on to the next one because I just don't want it to stop, that's a good indicator too.
Yeah, exactly.
But, and I get what you're saying. I mean, like everybody likes different stuff. I specifically have my go-tos, the type of books that I read. That doesn't stop me from reading other types. It's just certain types that I prefer or enjoy more. I'm not saying I don't enjoy, like, you know.
Right. Well, we all have our likes.
Your preference does not necessarily negate the fact that you can enjoy or appreciate something else.
Right.
It's just like your favorite genre of music.
Totally.
You can still listen and appreciate talent in other, some other type of music, but doesn't mean that that's your go-to. But it's nice to branch out a little bit and do something different. And I'm telling y'all in the chat here, if you guys want to branch out and you want to try something different, you definitely need to read her books, because
if you're brave.
Be brave. Like,
yeah, be brave. Come play.
Like, I mean, just the complexity of having to have one female and 12 guys with multiple.
That was a trip.
Like, even on one guy doesn't just have like one dick. Like, there's
right. Well, like Yeah, I mean,
It's
it's 12 it's
complicated.
12 dudes. It's 12 dudes. It's actually 16 dicks and 1 cock pocket among all of them. So that's so, there's a lot going on. And that's why there's lots of MM relationships in that situation because I mean,
Well,
girl needs a break.
recently, okay, and I'm being completely sincere about this.
Yeah.
Recently, sorry, I'm about to sneeze. Okay, it's gone. Um, I actually started. I don't look for it,
Mhm.
but don't mind the MM aspect because,
Mhm.
especially, I prefer white shoes.
Mhm.
It
Yeah.
still drives me crazy that I have to call it that because I mean, technically, she is choosing
I know.
those people specifically, and it's not like
Think of
well,
it, it's not a love triangle where you have like in a love triangle romance, it would like she would have to literally choose one or the other. Like she doesn't have
right.
to choose.
Well,
That's the way I think of it. Yeah.
the other problem with that term for me, and this is just my personal opinion on
That's
it
okay.
about why I choose, is because it's more like, well, I don't want to. It makes it seem so
Mm,
much less serious and
yeah,
committed than
right,
I don't know. To me, it just does. It's just like, well, I don't know.
right.
Why should I? It's like
Yeah,
flighty and
it sounds flighty. Yeah, I see
yeah.
what you're
But
saying.
that's my
Yeah,
opinion. But I've
yeah.
noticed that some of their characters, not
Mhm.
often, like in the ones I've read so far, but every once in a while, you have some of their characters have developed their own relationships and their own,
Yeah.
curiosities and things like that. And in a safe like circle of people that they're with, they're
Yeah.
able to explore and this, that, and the other. Now
Mhm.
you put 12 guys on an island alone,
Yeah, they've been on this island for centuries. I
right?
mean,
So I mean, especially from like the old Greece. Are you kidding me right now?
yeah, they don't give a
They
fuck.
were they were screwing everything that was around
Right,
anyway. Like that's
right,
like a Greek thing. Old
right,
ancient Rome and all this, like that was a
right.
thing.
Totally,
So
totally.
I'm just saying, like, so it makes complete sense. But
Yeah.
it's just funny because you can literally say, okay, there's 16. It's almost like, 5 golden rings, four.
Totally. I should make a bingo card for that series alone. Like, just
You have to like
check them off.
hidden NSFW pictures. We have to find all the peens. Like you have to find them.
Oh, don't give me ideas that I do
They're
like
hidden
that.
in the artwork, and you have to like find them.
Yeah,
Hmm. I mean, just think.
I like that. No, but it is, I mean, all of my books, all of my white cheese books, and now obviously I'm just writing, currently just writing MM. Like all of my white cheese books have MM relationships in them. Um, and that's a bit of a dividing line in the author and reader community
Hmm.
for white shoes of people who prefer to have the MM arcs or not. I'm totally fine if you prefer to not have it and just have them all be straight into the girl. I mean, to me, it feels a little unrealistic, but that's totally fine. It's whatever you want. Where I have issue, and I could go on a rant for this, and I don't know when you're trying to wrap this up, but like where I have issue is when there is MM, but it's represented in a really fetishistic way where it's almost like we always talk about the male gaze. Oh, that's done for the male gaze, and like it's offensive to us women. But it's almost like it's almost like the female gaze of this MM, like it's just there for like show. It just feels really gross. It's
Oh,
just gross.
I feel what you're saying. They're participating because she wants to see it.
Right. And like that's not what I write. That's not what I
No, and
write.
I agree with you there.
And
That's
that's
the
and
difference.
that's
Mhm.
like because I'm in like some of these larger, like these enormous Why Choose reader groups, where the readers they'll post like, I'm looking for a book with XYZ, blah, blah. And then they'll say what they don't want, which sometimes it can be it's fine to not want something, but it depends how you say it. But when I see a post that's like, oh, I don't mind MM, in the group, but as long as they're still just all about her. I'm like, what the fuck are you even talking about? Like, what are you talking about? It like makes me want to flip a table. I'm like, so the guys like aren't allowed to like care about each other or like have their own relation. Like it makes me like see red and like and it is an issue. It is an issue in that community. Um because I'm fine if you don't want MM in the white shoes.
Right.
But don't just want it as this kind of like little like personal show. Like these are actual people.
Right.
You know
No, I
what
get
I
that.
mean? Like, yeah, and so that's really like, yeah. that's really my perspective on it and the way that I include it and why I include it. And like I said, not every dude is always with other dudes. Like, it just depends on their personal preference. Like
Right.
with the Yaga's Writer series, there's 3 guys. 2 of them are in a serious relationship when we start the book. One of them identifying more as bi because he's been with women before. The other one just never having been with a woman before, never interested in a woman before, just gay until he meets our witch, of course. But then the third dude, just like their BFF, like he's like he has no problem with them and he will defend them to the death against any homophobes. But it's just not like he's just straight.
Yeah, it's just
Like
not
he's
his thing.
just straight. Right? He's fine when they're doing the group scenes and stuff and he's still in the action, but his dick and other dicks are not going. They're not crossing. And that's totally fine. Like, but it's all about like, what the character
Right.
like calls for.
By the way, shout out Truth. I see you there in the chat. Remember when I told you the person came and he helped me set all this up? He's in the chat. The Beats Bars and Delivery. That's one of my best friends right there. Appreciate you, man. He came in to
with
say
all the
hi.
goodies. All the goodies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love this stuff, man. I can do all kinds of crazy stuff.
I know you look very pro.
I try.
I'm just saying. Yeah.
I mean, you can see like my junk over here, but like we're just gonna
It's
ignore
pro
it.
junk. I wasn't even noticing it. It's not a stuffed octopus, but
I know that thing is so funny. I love that thing.
Actually, I'm gonna bring it closer.
I have one you turn inside out, like a little one.
Oh.
That has a happy face and a sad face.
Oh, okay. I was like, what part turns inside out? Made me think of like old school Popples. That's really gonna like date me. That's like 80s.
Yeah, we're talking about like the dicks crossing.
This was a
I say hi, Truth.
Here, just so everyone can see. I mean, we love a good tentapene in this house. That's my new mascot. I just got him for my birthday last week, so he's now a permanent fixture in my office.
No, but I was going to say back to what you were talking about when it comes to number one. I'd like to be in those groups. The ones that are like the ones that have the the wide shoes, like the big groups and stuff, where they can be like, "Hey, I'm looking for this." Yeah, I just want to see what people are looking for. I'm really interested because it might be something.
It is interesting.
I would like to see that and just to see because maybe there's something that I want to read. I probably wouldn't request anything. I don't think I'd need to. I'd probably just read all their stuff. But anyway.
Oh, please. I totally save. I actually have a folder. When you save a post in Facebook, I have one that's called To Read. So when someone requests something that I'm like, oh, I want that. Like, I'm that nosy bitch in the comments.
Take screenshots and I hate it because I have thousands and thousands and thousands.
Yeah, no, do it this way because then you can see the post and you can see exactly what they were asking for. And then you can read all the comments. It's like a little TBR in a little package.
Yeah, I don't do Facebook. Like I have it, but I basically stick with Instagram only because there's only so many like outlets. I don't do TikTok. I'm not on there at all. Sometimes in passing, I'll see something that somebody shares from TikTok, but that's about it. Mm-hmm. Facebook, I used to be very active on. I'm in a lot of I'm quite a few groups there, but I'm not actively scrolling and looking and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But for something like that, like I have my Amazon books for me. Mm-hmm. So sometimes I'll add stuff there. I always have at least 10 books out at all times.
Right.
Not including the ones I've bought because I ran out of space.
Right.
And then I get mad at myself because I forget to put the ones that I'm removing because I'm like, well, that one's been there for like 3 weeks and I haven't touched it. So maybe I'm not that interested.
Right.
And I keep forgetting to put them on the books for me. So then I get mad at myself because I'm like, damn it, I missed. Now I don't know where it went.
Yeah.
There's so many. Those turn over daily,
I know.
But to have a list like that, I mean, obviously I have my Goodreads. I've got tons on there that I've read.
Yeah.
But I only started that like a year and a half ago. So
yeah, I also just have a wish list on Amazon that's a to read list where I just save things. And even when I've read them, I kind of leave them on there.
Yeah, because I don't want to go do all that cleanup. That's a lot of work.
Yeah. And also, like you said, sometimes you might add it to your Kindle and then just like not get to it, whatever your mood is.
Yeah, pretty much.
I don't want to forget about it.
Because I binge.
But then, of course, I forget what I've read. Yeah.
I actually don't read standalones for the most part. I couldn't tell you the last standalone that I read.
I actually just read it. I just read an excellent standalone. Since we have so many fans in this chat, I just read. It's called Sainted by Jesse H. Rain. It's fucking excellent. It's you, and if you enjoy if you enjoy it to be dark, it's essentially a kidnapping dude who's like an heir to like a tech company, kidnapping him for ransom, and a relationship develops between them. So it is a fucked up relationship from the start, but it was done so well, and the characters are so good. But it was a standalone, and it was like just what I needed because yeah. But I do agree with you. I do like that ongoing, even if it's interconnected series, which I read a lot of, which is what my Villainous Things series is, where it's like you got to read them in order because there's cameos, but each book is kind of like its own little tasty package.
Right.
Is that too?
Yeah, I'm huge on series because I don't want it to end. I want to know what happens. I want to know, like, you develop the characters. For example, I'm actually, I think, like the 12th book in. I'm an asshole. I don't remember her name, but there's an author who there's a band, and then they do each book is like they find their person, and then it actually branches off into this other series that's in the same world where they kind of like in passing interact. And then now I just realized that I think I'm reading one that's prior to that brings two characters that I really liked. I was like, wow, I wish I knew what their story was. It was already written, so now I'm on that. So they all, if you know, like the generational. Right. That's why I like some of the elite, the elite ones where they're like the kings, the lords, whatever they are, and they have like these 4 or 5 characters that they branch off and like they make their connections, and so then you get all the books in the same world. You don't have to learn a new world. You already kind of know the players and what's going on. So I binge a lot of that stuff, a lot. And that's why I don't read standalones, because I'm like, that's it? Oh.
Well, no, I know what you mean. And because there's always, I mean, if you really love characters, you want more of them. And that's actually with my Villainous Things series. Like, I'm having so much fun. I already have it planned out to be 5 books of this interconnected world. And we're essentially going to get every brother in this villainous family is going to get their own book. And then we'll have like the 5th book is more of like a reunion book where someone's getting married and there'll be some more shenanigans or whatever. And I'm only working on book 2 now. But it's like I'm already kind of scheming. I'm like, will that be the end? Or will I be able to, should I figure out a way, like maybe that's that family, but I'm still in this world of soups and normies, as they call the humans.
Right.
Like, can I maybe do another little tasty mini series, if you want to call it that, in that same world, but with like a new set of characters where like maybe there'll be a little cameo, like, because readers do love that. They love, it's like, if you're a monster romance fan, CM Nescosta, who writes, most famous for Morning Glory Milking Farm. But those, which I don't know if we'll traumatize your chat with that one. But anyway, all her books, and they're essentially standalones, but they're all in, it's essentially monster small town romance. She's one of my favorite authors. Again, I just love her writing style. I love the level of spice she brings. I love the characters, but I love how it's also like it's all in the town of Camber Creek or whereabouts.
Right.
And they're different characters, and you sometimes will see like a random cameo, or the one character in one book doesn't like another one, which I love. I love that her characters sometimes don't like each other, even though it might be like a fan favorite or whatever. But yeah, it's like the same. It's a town, it's a world, and I am scheming how to keep that going with Villainous Things. I already know that I'm going to the monster who stays in monster form story that I mentioned that's coming out in Monsters in Love, the Monsters in Love anthology next month, is actually an intro to a monster creature universe that I want to launch, that's set here in Maine. I'm a Mainer, creepy ass Maine, home of Stephen King. But again, I want to, and I thought I was going to launch that series this year, but then gay superheroes took over my life. So it might not launch until next year. However, it's going to be a similar thing where they're all connected because of this like main focal character who you meet in the story. They're all in the same universe,
right?
Roughly related to each other. because yeah, readers just love that. They like to just feel like they're returning to a familiar place.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
No, absolutely. I completely agree with that. And you go through all the trouble of building a world that's, especially when you bring in magic, paranormal, monsters, like you have to take the time, especially in the first and second books and stuff, to really kind of explain how it works. Right.
Exactly.
And then from there on, you kind of got that base, that foundation established, and you can really, really branch off. For the ones like, for example, the superhero or the villains ones, have you considered backtracking and bringing those stories, the parents, the before things, or before all of this stuff changed, like prior to that, like like how long was it? Like it's been that way for, let's say, 200 years. Like go back 400 when maybe they weren't separated like that, and like where it started before somebody just threw a wrench
origin
in it.
stories.
Origin stories.
Yeah, no, I love it, and it's like my Patreon has actually seen some they've gotten some very sneaky glimpses of the 5 books in the series, so they kind of already know what to expect. But I only really gave them hints in terms of like the relationships and the dynamics and kind of the kinks, because that's really what they would care about. But I know, even though I say they're standalones, they're interconnected standalones, you have to read them in order, because there is an overarching storyline. There is an overarching plot of like heroes and villains. Are they so different? What is the origin of the, bad blood between them, blah, blah, blah. There's actually a lot more to it that you're going to get like pieced as it goes along.
Right.
Until you finally figure out. And I already know how it's going to end, and I know what the actual truth is here, but the readers aren't really going to know until book 4 or 5, because I'm just going to like keep it going. So it's not so much cliffhangers, because I am known for brutal cliffies on my like actual trilogies and duets. Like I just enjoy torturing people that way. But these aren't really cliffies. There's still some unanswered questions at the end of Not All Himbos Wear Capes, but it's not like keeping you up at night. It's more like, and it's going to get addressed more in the next book, and then it'll kind of keep going, and more like to keep it connected, to keep it interconnected.
No, I get that completely.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how a lot of like wolf shifter universes are like that.
Right.
Where you get the different characters that, or you have, like I said, when I say like the elites, the elites of blah 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 blah, and if it's not going to be a why choose, I'm trying really hard to use that terminology.
I know
if it's not a why choose,
I don't want to go into that drama. Yeah, yep.
If it's not a why choose, then they're going to splice off the main characters.
Right.
The main 4 guy friends or whatever. They're going to do that, or the rivals, right? So that you resolve that relationship maybe, or establish that relationship all in one book. But when it comes to the overall world, that's what keeps people like,
they're learning more.
Familiar.
They're learning more.
So
it's familiar, but they're learning more.
You know what Bob's Diner is, because in book 1, that's where they all hung out. Right. And almost got burnt down. And like, it just builds the familiarity, and it feels like home. Like you're you recognize it, and also it's got to give you a little bit of a breather. You don't have to reestablish the entire world every time you write a book. Right.
It's definitely like I breathe a sigh of relief with every review I see, and I do not go on Goodreads, and I do not look at those reviews. Like, that's a reader space, and I don't want to hear what some people are saying about me there. But Amazon, I do try to look at every review, even the not so good ones, just to try to learn something. But I definitely have been breathing a lot of sighs of relief about the world building and the plot. I mean, like, we're joking here about like how filthy my books are and blah, 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 and all this stuff. But I do actually like love a good twisty plot.
Right.
But I'm very thankful that it seems like I hit it right with the actual world building. I have realized a couple things I want to clarify in book 2 that not necessarily were, overly unexplained. It's not even really the right term, but like, not that I dropped the ball on in book 1, but I'm like, oh, you know what? I could probably explain that better in book 2. So I'm going to like make a point to have the come up in conversation, so again,
something that you want to get into more.
Exactly. And so again, it just builds on the existing world of like, oh, well, that makes so much more sense, because, obviously an author's goal is for people to love the book so much that they reread it, that it becomes like a comfort read. And so it's fun to then see like the Easter eggs or, whatever that were hidden in the first book, or to have, your understanding more about the side characters, because Wolfie, our main character of book 2, first of all, like I did not originally plan to write stories of all the brothers. I thought I was just going to be continuing with the same couple, but like different adventures. But especially the alpha readers and then the arc readers were like, no, like you will be writing a book about this creepy ass psychopath older brother. Like he will be our man in book 2, like no questions. And it's great because it works now for me to focus on all the brothers as I go along. But you get just glimpses of him in book 1 and glimpses of him through his brother's eyes, the brother Xander, who's
and it's surprising,
one of them.
like it's unexpected.
Right, exactly. And so I think it'll be it's a treat then for people to, get his POV in half the chapters of book 2. And then when they go back and read book 1, because that's the thing with Wolfie, like what he said, his inner thoughts are so much more complex than what he lets the world see. He's just like one of those types. Like he's very careful with his words. And so him just saying something super fucking creepy, he's kind of doing that for his own amusement. And also it's just like how he was raised to be this like creepy, ominous threat. Like his parents like treated him as a weapon. But like his inner thoughts are like, there's just so much. So it'd be interesting then to go back to book 1 and to like see him in action, but like realize what else is going on beneath the surface,
No, I completely understand.
Yeah.
Well, you wrote it well enough in the first one that you can tell that there's something more to it.
Well, apparently he caught everyone's fucking interest because people are like
Caught
thirsty for him. I revealed the cover today and people are like losing their shit. And it's funny because book 1 was total man chest, like Superman pulling open the shirt. This is not man chest. This is Wolfie in a tux, but his hand is naked because he normally wears leather gloves. I mean, maybe it's the naked hand. I mean, it's just funny. Like the thirst is real and it's tickling me. I just love it. I love it.
That's awesome. Can you believe we've been going for almost 2 hours and 15 minutes? It's ridiculous. Somebody mentioned it in the chat. I think Jared mentioned it.
I know Jared has not left us.
I know. He usually
Jared he's all in.
Absolutely. A lot of people, I can see people are hovering and I can see people that are talking. I appreciate each and every one of you that is here, by the way. Just FYI. And I see some of your readers are popping in. Emily's here. She's new to the podcast, Emily. So that's got to be one of your readers. Because like I said, I actually think I know pretty much every single person that comes into my chats.
I love that. It is a little community.
No, that's what it's all about for me.
Yeah.
The cover's amazing. See? Katie thinks cover's amazing.
Yeah.
And
I mean, thank goodness. My God. Maybe they were expecting Manchester, but apparently they wanted to see Wolfie in a tux. So.
Well, it would have been worse if they'd been like, oh my God, that's trash.
I know. Hopefully those people just keep their opinions to themselves.
Like, do I have to read this? Like, I thought it was going to be something else. Like, I don't know, good. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Meanies.
Keep it to yourself.
Meanies. But no, I appreciate you taking the time. I think my daughter's home. I'm not sure.
Yeah, my kid, I just set him. I mean, he's 9. It's like he can take care of himself.
Mine is too.
Oh.
She just got off the bus and came in, but she just came in probably about half an hour ago.
Yeah.
So she's wandering around the house somewhere. I'm surprised that I haven't heard my door like.
Yeah, I told him to just not come down here and please don't stomp over my head because I'm like, it's like a daylight basement down here. I'm
gotcha,
like,
yeah.
Don't stomp and don't come down here. I'm sure he's on the iPad. I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm sure that mine's on the tablet or harassing grandma at least. But right. I just think it's funny because, they're so independent at this age.
Yeah.
They're capable of being independent, but they still want us and they still need us. And
right.
It's nice because then I have a 17-year-old.
Oh.
And speaking of, that's the one that's about to come home. I'm not going to be on here when she gets here because.
Yeah.
The stereotypical teenage girls and their moms.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man, I'm not
all
sure.
All of the things like. Yeah. Everybody knows that. Everybody that knows me in my community knows that. It's a thing because I vent about it all the time. I'm like.
Yeah, momming is hard. It's fucking hard.
Adulting is hard enough. But,
Adulting is hard enough, and then now we have to mom. It's not like we don't love it. Not like we don't love them, but it's exhausting.
Yeah, you're still alive. You're welcome.
Yeah. Here's a tablet. Just go amuse yourself.
over there. Yeah, you know what? We establish our dinner routines, which irritates me because I usually don't eat in the evening at all. So I'm just sitting there staring at everybody. But yeah, Jess, good for you. She's got almost a 14-year-old girl. Enjoy that. I'm almost out of one. I have one that's in college. He's 19. I have one that's going to be 18 in June. She's.
Oh my God. I'm tired for you. I only have the one. I was one and done. I was like, this is too much.
I would have been out of kid jail by now, but no, I have a 9-year-old, which she's a sweetheart and she's very independent and she likes to do things for herself, but she still loves me. So I latch onto her a lot.
Yeah.
I have to. Because the other one
you sour teens can go away.
I'm the cause of everything. Everything is my fault. Like, it's crazy how that works, but
we're kind of in that already with him being 9.
I just have like a countdown because she's like, I'm moving with my boyfriend. Okay, bye.
Right. Like, you go do that, go pay some bills.
Yeah. When I get my car, my apartment, I'm like,
bills.
You're making me pay. You had me. I didn't ask to be born. Yeah. Okay.
I mean, how can you not laugh? Like, sometimes my husband and I, we have to because he gets so mad when we laugh at him. I mean, who wants to be laughed at? Totally understandable. But sometimes they would say these like teen style things, even at that age, and you're just like, how can you not?
It's like,
do you listen to yourself? Yeah, like you just said that.
Did that just come out of your mouth?
I know, and I'm actually trying to teach him to laugh at himself more because I'm just like, it's a good trait to have because sometimes like you got to laugh at your own ridiculous.
My 9-year-old, she is gullible.
Yeah.
So my mom and I were so mean. Like yesterday, she comes in from playing outside, right? And we were sitting in the front room. My mom's in the recliner. I'm sitting on the couch. And my mom had just turned the light off because, it was that time between, daytime and evening time. So she comes in. She's like, hi. We're like, I was like, man, I'm tired. My mom, are you tired? She's like, oh. I'm like, I could just fall asleep. Billy's like, and I was like, man, and after that really good dinner, now I'm super tired. She's like, She's like, what? You ate without me? I was like, well, you didn't check in, so we just went ahead and ate. Now I'm so full, I just want to fall asleep. She's like, her jaw on the ground. And we carried this thing on, okay? So we're like, we're not going to sleep. And I told my mom's like, oh, I'm still a little hungry. I'm like, well, we've got pizza. And my daughter's like, pizza? And I was like, hey, go get the pizza. I said, well, it's a personal size. And she's like, and I was like,
oh,
it wasn't, but still. She didn't know that. And so we were making it, and my mom's making fries. She's thinking it's just for my mom.
Oh my gosh.
So she's at the table pouting, like tantrum. At the table, and we're just dying. We're dying. Because just
gotta have fun with it because
she's like, well, it's not funny anymore. And she goes, are you
like, well,
serious?
I think it is.
No, we say that. We're like, it's funny. And I told my mom later, I was like, that was hilarious. She's like, she's so gullible. We need to break her of that. I'm like,
yeah. Well, that's the thing. It's like, it's character building.
I mean, it's
literally
you.
like the reward for parenting.
I get something out of it. The only thing I get out of it is hugs. Yeah. Mommy, I love you. And getting to fuck with you. Like,
right. I mean, we have to have a reward somewhere.
Dad jokes, which I'm a mom and I don't have my dad around. So I get to do all the dad jokes and I get to use their my teen. My God, you ever try to joke with her? She's like, that's not funny. And it's like, that just made it more funny.
Actually it was quite funny. Thank you.
It was. And we do. She's like, you can't talk to people like that. And I'm like, it was a joke. She's like, it's not funny. I said, well, we thought it was. My mom's like, we thought it was. It was great.
Tough crowd.
Savvy's like, I had 4 teenage girls at one time I raised. People ask me how I'm so mellow. Dang, the rest of life is nothing compared to that.
It really does put it in perspective.
But yeah.
That's true though.
But my teen's about to come home. I'm like we go message my mom and I'm like, incoming, when I get the alert that the bus is coming.
Right.
Incoming, and my mom's like, suddenly my mom is like in the front room and she disappears. I'm like, where did she go? She ran.
I mean, yeah, there's nothing scarier than a teenage girl. Like, there's literally nothing scarier as someone who's been one.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Yeah.
Terrifying creatures.
We know, and there's no logic. It doesn't make sense. It's just funny, and that's why like I can sit there. I like, we all do things for whatever reason. I am an obsessive book reader just because I love to just. I go into that world. I go into my head. I go into my imagination. And I just enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
It just is what it is. And sometimes I just need a break because.
Yeah.
I'm serious. Like, I just need the break.
This is why so many moms read, and so many moms read smut. Like, it's a no-brainer, really.
Nothing.
I mean, like,
well, I think my kids know.
You want us to relax.
they see my books over there. They're just not supposed to touch them.
Right.
Right.
Right. I don't even think it's like. I mean, my kid knows that I write. I mean, he's in his own world anyway, so it's not like he's
about dinosaurs and octopus.
Yeah, I don't know if he really fully comprehends. Like, he's seen the covers, and he's such a reader too. So I am gonna have to figure this out to make sure. I mean, I don't think he's anywhere near wanting to pick up a book of mine because he's in the graphic novel stage, which is awesome.
Yeah, so is mine.
Yeah, exactly. Like, they just love it.
I'm reading. I'm like, no, you're not. That's a picture.
Oh, but yeah, I'm probably gonna have to. Or maybe like, when you're old enough, go ahead. Scare yourself away from my books.
I was going to say trauma, like traumatize them early.
Now you'll know not to look. Meet the Tentapene. I know. I'm in a house of boy. Like, my husband, my kid, my ancient 800-year-old cat, which is here. He's a boy. Everyone's a boy.
Yeah, we're all girls here.
Right. Yeah.
We're all girls here. Help us. We need help. But no, I really appreciate you taking the time, and I appreciate everybody that's coming to the chat, everybody that's listening in the future. It was awesome, and we got to talk about all the things like we swore we were going to do, and we did. And I mean, I had a blast. I hope you did too.
This was fun. This was fun. I got a little nervous when I realized that your podcast, because I've done podcast interviews, when I realized that it was actually going to be live and on YouTube. I was like, oh God. Because that's not really my comfort zone, but
make it painless.
No, and this was fun, and it was actually fun to like have the chat happening.
No, absolutely, because they're legitimately interested.
Yeah.
Right. And people
they were good sports.
They really are. Even when they're like, the hell, they still. I'm going to say this about my community. I love each and every one of them. I know all of them that come in for the most part. I think you get one or two that I don't know. I know them all. I can recognize them by sight. They're the most kind, like accepting, inclusive bunch that there are. They're super supportive. They're going to go look you up, click on your stuff. Just even if it's like, well, this really isn't for me, they're still going to go check it out. Just because.
I mean, they should still interact with me on social media because I have a lot of fun.
But
even if you don't want to read about Tentapene, that's fine.
They're the best. They really are. And they stick by and they're curious. They want to know new things. And even if it's not their thing, they still are here because they know it's going to be a good time. Yeah. They know it's going to be interesting because my intention is never to grill somebody and make it all about, so where were you from? When did you start writing? What started it? What made you think of this? What classes did you take? It's a conversation. Yeah. That's how you get to know people, is you have a conversation. And people that just... A, B, C, D. You can do that in like a non-live format.
Right.
But I would prefer to do that with the live chat because like Jess, my moderator, who's been here the whole time as well, she'll send me the questions if I miss them. And this time I don't think I've missed
Yeah, I feel like we covered a lot.
Mm-hmm. And people have been saying, they're like, well, you answered all the questions. I'm like, I'm sure you answered the questions and then some.
Yeah, TMI. That's another hashtag. I feel like that's my third hashtag, TMI.
And now you guys have new vocabulary. You're welcome.
Totally.
And you're never gonna talk about, go outside and throwing snowballs the same.
No. Or docking.
Yeah.
Or
is your ship gonna dock?
Yeah.
And you're gonna go.
Never gonna look at a squid the same way. I mean, sorry.
If I can get that video, I'm gonna post it in my Discord. So
I'll see if I can find it in the art group. It's terrifying. It's terrifying, and then to imagine someone having that as their dick.
Well,
it's carousing, right?
Well, she is a solid hoe, and she's good. She's here for it. So
she's here for it.
Right. No, but I truly appreciate it, and you taking the time out to do this, especially in a format that you weren't expecting it to begin with, and to to pop out of your comfort zone. I know that we all truly do appreciate it.
Yeah.
And
That was fun.
I'm stoked. This was fun. I like getting into the dirty shit. They all know that about me. I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, he says, not bad at all. I enjoyed the conversation, even if a few things are not my idea of fun, but still cool to listen to others. That's what I'm saying. They're the most accepting and inclusive.
They like being a fly on the wall.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, because they know it's going to get weird.
Yeah, definitely. Things definitely get weird. I call my readers my weird hoes. Like, that's literally what I call them, weird hoes. Because that's...
Well, one of the first podcasts, I think, we started out talking about, like, Titty Lake. We were talking about Elsewhere as a place, and then we had Titty Lake.
Yeah.
And then the Wish a Motherfucker Woods. Like, it was all the things. I mean...
I love it.
Like 5 podcasts started off with like us coming out of like, prior to when I hit the live button. Because I had a co-host at the beginning, Skulls. He's one of my best friends. Yeah. Us and the guests, somehow, we literally came into the podcast and it was immediately talking about porn. And we're like, how did this is like, and one of them was corn porn. So that was a whole thing. So they're used to a little bit of crazy, you know. And I love it because it's who I am. Yeah, it's easier. I mean, it's fun to shock people, but it's also, it makes things enjoyable when everyone's kind of on the level. No, absolutely. If you don't like it, you can click somewhere else. Like I have zero fucks to give about that. Like if people don't like it, click somewhere else. I don't need to hear it. Go tell someone who cares. Yeah, I love it. I love it. But no, we're definitely going to probably get off here. We're about 2 hours and 30 minutes at this point. My goodness. I'm going to go do the, momming thing, the adulting thing. Boo. Boo. That's what I'm saying. Boo. Lame. Like, mommy wants to just sit here and play. I don't want to do stuff. Fun. I'm going to make the chicken for dinner. We're going to make Long John Silver's breaded chicken. Like the batter that they make. We have the recipe. I mean, that sounds good to me. Yeah, we have the recipe for their batter. So we're going to go try that. Yeah. I might post about it unless I fail. And then it's going to be chicken nuggets. Everyone better fucking eat it and they better fucking like it. Mm-hmm. That all of that right there. That whole thing. No, but everybody, we appreciate you. And I want to thank you for coming on again. And I know I'll talk to you at some other point. You guys all go check her out. I have pinned her link tree up at the top of the chat. You can also, just look her up. Look up her books. It's all over my stuff. It's all over the description. It's in the Discord. It's wherever. Or you can just DM me and I'll tell you. No big deal. But yeah, definitely give her a shout out. Just say hi. Follow her. She's got a great sense of humor if you haven't figured that out. And you just never know what's going to come out of her damn mouth. No, it's a blessing and a curse. Oh, Emily says, my 7-year-old daughter found my NSFW art from you. I had to explain some things. That's funny. Sorry, not sorry, Emily. That's why I have my binder. All my readers know I actually have all of mine hidden in a binder because I can't hang it up. That's my art and then the art that I buy from my author friends. Like it's in my dirty binder. Yep. All right. Well, we're going to get out of here, guys. I appreciate everybody coming through and I appreciate you so much for hanging out with me and having this conversation. And if you ever have something coming out and you want to jump on, you let me know. You are open invitation. You're welcome to come back if you feel like it. All right. But well, I had a fucking blast. This was fun. Well, I'm glad. That's what I want to hear. Like, that's the whole point. It's supposed to be fun. If it's not fun, then, what am I doing it? Yeah, no, it was fun. I like shooting the shit. All right. Well, I will talk to you soon. And everybody in the chat, thank you so much. Drop a comment, hit the like button. This will end up on the platforms like Spotify and all that fun stuff if I ever catch up and do it. I'm a little bit behind on that, but that's okay. Eventually it will be. But I love you guys. All right, well, thanks for having me. Thank you. You guys have a good afternoon. I think it's 4 o'clock. That never happens. I'm always like 10 o'clock at night. So you guys have a good day. Enjoy it. And I will see you guys elsewhere.
Look at the way we moving, saying she with it.
Everybody.
It's time to make it
What
prove it.
up?
I'm trying to get it wet. I have you
We're
licking
back.
fluid. And if it's money to be made, you never beat me to it. I be on the ground, ho. Finally my time, ho. I be in Los Angeles, balling harder than Lonzo. Money is the only thing that I be making time for. Don't
got going on? How we feeling?
How
we living out there?
My actions get reactions, bitches all at our neck. My flexing got you capping, you can't ball with it yet. Don't think that she